Good evening. The Conejo Valley Unified School District Board of Education regular board meeting of April 15th, 2026 will please come to order. Pursuant to the Ralph M. Brown Act, this is a meeting of the Board of Education in public, and only items on the agenda will be discussed this evening. We invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the board is adjourning from closed session where the following items permitted by law were considered. Item 1B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2. One case, there is no readout provided for this agenda item. Item 1C, public employee discipline, dismissal, release pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. During its recently concluded closed session, the board voted to approve a settlement agreement resolving the employment of a permanent certificated employee, employee number 6094. Trustee Gorbach made the motion to approve the settlement agreement, seconded by Trustee Goldberg. The vote was unanimous. Under the terms of the agreement, the employee agrees to submit their irrevocable resignation from the district. In exchange, the district agrees to allow the employee to remain in paid status during a specified period of time and render payment of an agreed-upon settlement amount to the employee. The employee waives and releases the district from any and all legal claims relating to or arising out of their employment with the district. Item 1D, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The agency negotiator is Dr. Victor Hayek, Deputy Superintendent. The discussion item is price and terms of payment regarding 1335 Calle Bougainvillea, TO, California. Negotiating parties, CVUSD District and Dr. Kelly Simon for Bridges Charter School. There is no readout provided for this agenda item. Item 1A, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. The agency negotiator is Dr. Hayek, Deputy Superintendent. The discussion item is price and terms of payment regarding 2000 La Granada Drive, TO, California. Negotiating parties, CVUSD and Kristen Walker for Mates Charter School. No readout is provided for this agenda item. Finally, 1F, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1. Case OAH 202-509-0397. Trustee Goldberg made the motion to approve the settlement agreement for this case, seconded by Trustee Gorbach. The motion carried 5-0. Okay. I would like to welcome everyone to the meeting and would like to make the following announcements. The board values your input on the important education matters we face. Therefore, the district is providing multiple opportunities for public participation. Public viewing is available through internet live stream on the CVUSD website. Please note the different opportunities to provide public or written comments to the board can be found on the main page of the board agenda. Members of the public wishing to submit a written comment had the option to email their comments to sfelman@conejousd.org by 3 p.m. today. Board members were provided with these written comments prior to the meeting. Persons wishing to address the board in person should fill out a blue speaker's card and hand it to Mrs. Fellman at the secretary's desk. If you wish to speak on a specific agenda item, please turn in your card prior to that item section of the agenda. If the school district business you wish to speak about is not on tonight's agenda, please turn in your card before the public comments section of the agenda. If you intend to donate time to another speaker, please hand in both cards at the same time to Mrs. Fellman. If you wish to register your concern but not speak at the podium, please fill out a yellow public statement form and turn it in to the secretary's desk. Board members will be provided with these statements after the board meeting. Please be advised that a recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast for our live stream audience, and the recording and broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Smoking not permitted in this building or anywhere on any district property. Copies of the agenda are available on the table in the board lobby, And please silence all cell phones. All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Trustee Gill.
President Sylvester, I move that we approve the agenda with the following changes. Pulling 3 items for a separate vote, items 4U, 4AN, and 4AR, and withdrawing 3 items from the agenda, items 4AA, 4AB, and 4AQ.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Trustee Kearns,
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg,
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach,
Yes.
Trustee Gill,
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
I am a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. All right, moving on to fun part of the meeting. 2E, student recognition. So from what I gather, we're going to be starting with Newbury Park High School. I hope that's accurate. The black and the gold. So we will be honoring teams from all 3 of our comprehensive high schools tonight. So that's actually very special. All right. Turning this over to Principal Lapierre.
Good evening, everybody. Board President Sylvester, Dr. McLaughlin, trustees, district leadership. I'm going to say it always. It's a great day to be here. Great night to be here when we get to recognize the achievements of our outstanding students in this school district. And it's it's my pleasure tonight to recognize our girls wrestling team. Probably over in the last 4 to 5 years, we probably started 4 or 5 years ago with 1, 2, or 3 wrestlers. And we basically have an entire full squad of female wrestlers on our team, which led us to hiring a full-time coach for our program as well. And we appreciate the district's support in that as well. And with the future of the program, we just see great things continue to happen. So first, as a just kind of overall, this is the first time we've actually had an official Marmani League champion for girls wrestling, and we've had some other outstanding achievements that I'm going to read for the individual students. So at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our Marmani League girls wrestling champions from Newbury Park High School. First, Jenna Bernard. Next, Marmani League champion Madison Black. She's also a girls individual Marmani League champion, girls CIF Southern Section Northern Division champion, girls CIF Southern Section champion, and girls undefeated state champion with a record of 53-0. So Dr. McLaughlin, Madison and I were talking today, and she thought she'd like to try and go 54-0 tonight if you're ready. So congratulations, Madison. Roxanne Crabb. Congratulations. Kylie Zubek. Maya Garza. Maya was also an individual Marmani League champion as well. Abigail Goebel. Leah Ingersoll. Chloe Lynn, Marmani League champion, and girls individual Marmani League champion. Chloe. Juliet Martin, Marmani League champion and girls CIF Southern Section Northern Division champion. Lauren McIntyre. Paige Moore. Trinity Orozco, also individual Marmani League champion. She's not here today. Sky Smart. Jolene Smith. Paula Toon Orozco. And Evan Watts. Evan was also an individual Marmani League champion as well. With the ginormous trophy they are holding, first one of our coaches, Marcus Black. Tyler Ruiz. Jeffrey Martin. Nicholas Vasquez. And last but not least, Eric Watt.
All right, as everyone enters, we are now turning to Thousand Oaks High School. And as an added note, it is also Mr. Eby's birthday tonight, or so I've been told.
Oh, gosh.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Eby. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Well, thank you for that. That was definitely unexpected. So thank you for having us here tonight. I'm here to present our Marmani League champion girls basketball team. Finished with a remarkable final record of 25-4, 9-1 in Marmani League play. We're outright Marmani League champions this year. It's been a remarkable journey over the last 3 or 4 years for some of our seniors here and really building an outstanding program. As a side note, our JV team also won the league as well. So an amazing girls basketball season. I want to thank Coach Onaveros, Coach Redmond there in the back, and Coach Devad, who's not here as well, on all their time and effort they put in with these teams. We had 3 coaches, or at one point only 2 coaches for both teams, and they worked all together, and it was a remarkable season that we had. So proud of our team and our girls. So first up, we have Taylor Bacon. So you're going to go on around. Kaylin Briers. Milana Clark. Raquel Derringer. I'm going to say Haley's name, but she's not here, so just wait. Haley Lorenzen, who's not here tonight. Ariana Lopez is also not here. Jillian McGilvray. Kyrie Nagasugi. Deanna Pham. Leona Ramaskal. Kendall Sullivan. Rebecca Wang. And Dory Lawrence. Dory's just not going to come around unless people want to. Tori just had knee surgery on Monday. I'll hold them. We'll get them for the girls. And then you can go to take care of it. Yeah, you can go on up. Or just go take a picture. You can go take a picture. They didn't make certificate for you, coach. Go get in the picture then. Yeah. Coaches, go ahead.
All right, last, clearly not least, Westlake High School. Turning it over to Principal Branham.
Thank you, Board President Sylvester, Superintendent McLaughlin, board members, and executive cabinet, distinguished guests. Thank you all for having us here this evening. It's our honor to be here to recognize a couple outstanding and amazing programs from Westlake High School. The first of which is our boys basketball team as Marmoni League champions. They had an incredible season. When you look at this team and the fight and the grit and the determination that they showed all year long against some of the best competition in all of Ventura County and all of Southern California, because the Marmoni League is literally that tough. And for them to compete every night and do such a phenomenal job and really bring home the Marmoni League championship was something extremely special this season. And it could not have been done without the leadership and direction of our head coach, Mr. Curtis Scott. And I would like to bring him up to introduce our players. All right. Yep.
Hello, thank you so much for having us. This is an incredible honor and excited to celebrate our guys on an incredible year. First up, Mason Forrest. Kai Graver. Congratulations, man. Zach Kalinsky. Congratulations, Zach. Ethan Carcoon. Ian Legirin. I didn't say that right. I got to get that. I got to get that down, Ian. Daniel Maloof. Congrats, dude. Axel Ostergaard. Congrats, dude. Marco Riso. Good job, Marco. Joaquin Saladana. Congrats, dude.
And then once again, our head coach, Mr. Curtis Allen. Congratulations, Coach. Coach. Congratulations. Yeah, nice job. Yeah. Basketball families, it's okay if you guys want to exit and follow the boys, you're allowed to. Give these to the coaches. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. We good? Okay. Good. All right, next up, we are excited and proud to announce our girls soccer team. So our girls soccer team, not only were they Marmani League champions by defeating Oaks Christian in the last 2 minutes of the game, I think, in an incredible game to earn the championship on Oaks Christian's field, which is always a great feeling. But then they made an incredible run throughout not only CIF Southern Section playoffs, but also through the state playoffs. And what's interesting is the Marmani League MVP, who is on our team, KK, she actually went to play on the U20 national team in Thailand. So she wasn't even part of the run for the state. And in spite of that, our young lady stepped up and did a phenomenal job and went all the way, won the CIF State Regional Championship. And then for the first time ever, CIF actually had a state championship up in Sacramento, and they qualified to be able to go up there and compete in that. So a truly remarkable season, and a season that is a first of its kind. So really excited and proud for everything they accomplished this year. And again, it would not have been possible with without this head coach, Mr. Frank Marino, and he's going to introduce the players.
Thank you, everybody. All right. Here we go. Sam Bateman. Stevie Bethel.
Sam.
Shania Brooks. Riley Brown. I got you. I got it. CC Chowana. Haley Johnson. Marta King. UC Lynn. Mia Pappas. Morgan Smith. Sierra Spencer. Anika Valor. Claire Tasker. Sydney Wise. And Hallie Zedek. And of course, want to recognize our amazing assistant coaches. First, Michelle Schartz. and Brenton Frame.
And then once again, a big round of applause for our head coach, Mr. Frank Marino. Ladies, do the little shoulder turn thing. You know how you do the shoulder? Yeah. There you go. So that we can condense. Perfect. Coaches got to get in there. Come on, coaches. Congratulations. Good. Peter, we're the last. Congratulations, you guys. Congratulations, everybody. Really? That's good to hear. Oh, wow.
Give everyone a minute to file out. I want to say that was really inspiring, and seeing the number of female athletes we just recognized is also great. So we are going to move now to item 2F, also a highlight of our board meetings, which is our reports from student reporters. So first up, we have Selena Smith from Century Academy.
Hello, President Sylvester, Dr. McLaughlin, members of the board and district administration. My name is Selena Smith, and I'm happy to provide you with updates on what Century's been up to this April as we waddle our way into May. Starting with ASG, we had our own little field trip to Escapology in the Jan's Mall. We split up into groups of 2 and had a race to see which group would finish the room the fastest. Though my group didn't win, we still all successfully escaped, and it was all tons of fun. The very next day, on April 2nd, we had our spring egg hunt, where we had 207 participants, which was close to 100 families who came and partook in our annual egg hunt. We had several booths for kids to choose from, including face paint, chick adoptions, glitter tattoos, arts and crafts, and more. The popcorn and lemonade stand was our most popular booth, understandably, and from the looks of it, everybody had a lot of fun. Lastly, for ASG, they are hard at work planning our last event, which will be mid-May. Moving on, something not so fun, starting this week on April 14th through 17th, grades 5, 7, and 9 will be finishing their physical fitness test, and grades 3 through 8 plus 11 are completing their CASP testing. We wish them all the best. Finally, we have the graduation ceremony on June 9th and 10th. Century and Shine teachers are already working on their graduation ceremonies for both 8th and 12th grade, both working with families to get photos for the slideshow presentations. We're sad to see them go, but excited to see what they'll conquer. Thank you for listening, and hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Selena. Already talking about graduation. That's unbelievable. Next up, Angeline Pinn from Conejo Valley High School.
Good evening, President Sylvester, Dr. McLaughlin, members of the board and district administration. I hope you all had a wonderful spring break. We are now on the final stretch towards the graduation in summer. As I mentioned last month, we saw several Dragons graduate, but we happily welcomed several new members to the school. They had 2 weeks with us before spring break, but that gave them good time to learn the routines of our school. In the 2 weeks before spring break, Mr. McDonald worked hard to try and complete the annual CASP testing for our juniors. Almost everyone has completed testing, and overall, it went smoothly. We've achieved close to 95% participation rate for testing this year. Now, I think I mention them just about every month, but Anthem continues to provide so much for our school. They donated eggs for the annual egg hunt on April 2nd, and I think we had about 900 eggs, and they gave us 6 golden eggs with special prizes in them. The leadership students had a lot of fun hiding the eggs for everyone to find during lunch period, and we are so grateful for Anthem Church's constant dedication to us. Also, a big thank you to Mrs. Judd for joining us for the egg hunt. Friday, Anthem is also putting together our 2nd annual cupcake decorating at lunch. Last year, it was a lot of fun for all of us. They put out amazing spreads of cupcakes and goodies for decorating. We are really, really looking forward to it this year, and if any of you can join us, it's at lunch on Friday and will be in room 11. Mrs. Cooper from Thousand Oaks High School has worked hard to organize the toupee events for the district this year. Since our school is so small, more than half of our school is getting to participate in the district-sponsored activities. The presenters always have great insights to provide everyone. Besides that, we have lots of events in the planning stages. In 4 weeks, we'll have our 3rd annual family night. This has been our most successful way of bringing together our dragon families. We would love it if all of you could join us on Thursday, May 14th at 5:30. We're also planning for grad night at Six Flags on May 29th. Our first ever senior sunset is planned for Thursday, June 4th. You are all welcome to attend that as well. At the beginning of the year, we had a very successful senior sunrise in September, so we're hoping to have a lot of students here for the sunset as well. That will be followed by our senior breakfast and graduation during the last week of school. It's crazy to think how quickly it is all coming together. It's crazy to think how quickly this is all coming together, and my time at CVHS is coming to an end. But thank you all for allowing me to present, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all next month. Though it'll be bittersweet since it'll be my last board report, I will see you then. Have an amazing rest of your evening.
Thank you, Angeline. Next up is Darwin Rowland from Newbury Park High School.
All right. Good evening, distinguished members of the board and district personnel. My name is Darwin Rowland, and it's a pleasure to be joining you on behalf of Newbury Park High School as a student representative this evening. In the last month, several of Newbury Park's big events took place, with multiple sports teams holding their end-of-year banquets, multiple performing arts departments hosting their final large-scale shows, and ASG holding our election for next year's board, where we received almost 700 votes. That's almost half of every eligible voter at our school. The theater department put on their production of A Midsummer Night's Dream for a great crowd and did a great job of making Shakespeare enjoyable for a modern audience, while Jazz Band held their jazz festival that Friday as well. Last night, our strings department also performed in the all-district strings performance, representing our school wonderfully. In the week leading up to spring break, ASG celebrated our Students of the Month and Easter, hosting several lunchtime activities to get Newbury students into a festive mood going into a well-deserved break. ASG also hosted our March Madness brackets and cornhole tournament to foster friendly competition and to get students more involved, both of which went great and had more participation from the student body. Next week is action-packed, with our Future Panther Night happening from 5 to 7 on Wednesday and class officer elections taking place the rest of the week. The dance department will also be hosting its annual spring dance concert, which will be taking place in the gym instead of the Performing Arts Center for an exciting new twist on the event. Members of our choir department will be going to Boston this week to compete against other schools from across the country, and their all-district performance will be held on Tuesday, April 28th. Finally, ASG has begun planning our finale rally, which we've decided to theme as Ancient Greek Olympics, where we'll be hosting a variety of Greek-style games and activities for our students to enjoy. We've also begun planning our annual boat races event, where students get the opportunity to race cardboard boats that they made themselves. While both of these events are still in planning and take place at the end of May and early June, they're definitely something to look forward to if anyone wants to come watch. We're all excited for the rest of this fun-filled month and all the events that planned that make NPHS such an inclusive and uplifting environment for our students. Thank you again for your support, and have a great night.
Thank you, Darwin. Next up, for Thousand Oaks High School, we have Jade Yakel. Did I say that right?
Good evening, esteemed members of the board, Dr. McLaughlin, and district personnel. My name is Jade Yakel, and I am the ASB treasurer at Thousand Oaks High School. It is my pleasure to share our April board report on behalf of our school. April has brought a renewed sense of energy to Thousand Oaks High School as we enter the final stretch of the year. Following a restful and well-deserved spring break, students and staff have returned recharged and ready to take on a busy and exciting season ahead. This week, our students are engaged in CASP testing, approaching it with focus and determination. Our campus continues to emphasize the importance of academic growth, and we are proud of the effort our students are putting into demonstrating their learning. Looking ahead, we are preparing for our annual AP blackout period, where activities are intentionally limited in the 2 weeks leading up to AP exams. This allows our school to prioritize academics and create a focused environment that supports student success during this important time. We are also excited to be hosting Unified Sports Soccer on our campus this week, a rescheduled event from the fall. Unified Sports continues to be a meaningful part of our school's culture, bringing students together through inclusion, teamwork, and shared experience. For our seniors, this time of year is especially meaningful as they begin finalizing their college decision, preparing for the next chapters of their lives. We are looking forward to celebrating them at our annual May Day event, a long-standing tradition that recognizes the accomplishments and future plans of the graduating class. We are also proud to share that our Ethos Enterpriseship Academy senior team will be traveling to New York City next week to compete in the virtual Enterprise National Competition. This is an incredible opportunity to represent Thousand Oaks High School on the national stage. We wish them the best as they showcase their innovation, collaboration, and hard work. Student leadership is also in full motion as we conduct our ASB elections this week, with interviews beginning next week. It is exciting to see so many students stepping forward to lead and serve our campus community for the upcoming school year. In addition, prom planning is in full swing, with the event scheduled for May 16th. Students are looking forward to this memorable milestone, and ASB is working hard to create a meaningful and enjoyable experience for all attendees. With so much happening across the campus, April reflects the excitement, momentum, and pride that defines the final months at Thousand Oaks High School. Thank you for your continued support for our students, staff, and programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jade. And finally, we have Fiona Mercer for Westlake High School.
Good evening, esteemed members of the board and community members. I hope you all had a great spring break. My name is Fiona Mercer, and I am back to give you an exciting report on what has been going on at our school. Before I start, I would like to thank Amelie Ortiz for doing my report last time when I had a dress rehearsal for theater performance, and she did such a great job. Okay. Speaking of theater performances, the Westlake Theater Department did a fantastic job putting together such good quality performances for the most talented cast ever. I was one of them. Our live band was really awesome because even though we only had 2 rehearsals with them before the shows, they were just chef's kiss. Also, a huge thank you. Oh no, sorry. Also, a huge thank you to Mrs. Bennett, our director, and Mrs. Tara Krish for working so hard to put together a very complex production. During this time, we had 2 dress-up weeks back-to-back to help advertise the musical Legally Blonde, and we had another dress-up week the week after to get students excited for spring break. Not only did our students have so much fun with dressing up, but our staff also had a blast with their own Spirit Week as well. Some of the Spirit Days included anything but a cup or water bottle day, beach day, and so much more. Before break, ASG also took a trip to Disneyland, and we had the best time. After break, we are in the process of having MC tryouts for the next school year, and I can't wait to see who our MCs will be. We are also in the process of doing WOW counselor interviews for next year, and I already know the selected upperclassmen to be the counselors will be the greatest mentors for our incoming freshmen. Also, our AP teachers are working so hard to prep their students for AP tests. RHG seniors also just put prom tickets on sale, and I can't wait for my seniors to have the best time of their lives at a night in La La Land. This Friday, our junior class is putting on an event called Battle of the Bands as a fundraiser, but also a way for our warriors to show up to support their friends and classmates. Our choir department has a very busy schedule ahead of us. Next Friday, we will be doing a Disney Forum competition, and after that, we will go to Disneyland and stay until closing. Then we're going to a hotel and spending the night, and we're going to wake up at the crack of dawn and spend that whole day at Disneyland again. And we'll be back by midnight. Last but not least, a couple of days later, we will be having our district choir festival at the Civics Art Plaza with the middle school and elementary school students. Before I end my speech, I am so excited to say that I was selected to be the next school year's vice president once again, so I will be doing the reports for you all for another year. I know I would get sick of me too. Sorry. But in all seriousness, I can't wait to give you all reports during my senior year. That concludes my report. Thank you so much for your time. And as always, we're building our future the warrior way. Thank you.
And Fiona, I did get to see you on stage in Legally Blonde and agree, it was a great production. So a lot of hard work I know went into that. All right, we are now on item 2G, which is a report from a parent organization. And this month we are going to hear from Jess Bernacki, who is the chair of our LGBTQ+ Advisory Council. Welcome, Jess.
All right, good evening. Dear CVUSD administration and school board members, thank you for having me today. I'm happy to share that our advisory council has made significant strides in advancing our mission to foster an inclusive, safe, and supportive learning environment for all our students. This year, we had representation from 15 school sites and maintained 4 subcommittees: elementary, secondary, curriculum, and toolkit. In February, we had our first community social meeting, which was attended by over 50 caregivers, board members, administrators, and students. We want to thank the Conejo Schools Foundation for helping us secure grant funding to provide food at the event. For those of you who were able to come, it was super fun, and we hope more join us next year. In our academic endeavors, we have continued to discuss with our district administrators how our current curricula are inclusive and affirming for our LGBTQ+ students, and how this can be further improved. We've appreciated the dialogue and look forward to ongoing developments. To wrap up this year, we will release a toolkit in May, modeled after the CDAC toolkit, that will be available on our advisory council page. And in the next academic year, we plan to continue our efforts to ensure that CVUSD is a safe and supportive learning environment for all our students. We appreciate the engagement of our CVUSD administrators and school board members and look forward to the next academic year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we are now on item 2H, which is public comments. So the CVUSD Board of Education wants to hear from students, parents, employees, and our community. All individuals have the right to provide public comments during our school board meetings under Government Code Section 54954.3. Comments regarding specific items listed on tonight's agenda must be made when that agenda item is called. If you wish to speak on a topic that is not on tonight's agenda, now is the time to provide your public comment. If you have not already done so and wish to speak, please hand in your blue card to Mrs. Fellman. Please note that if you have any materials to hand to board members, please provide those materials to Mrs. Feldman for distribution to the board. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the board cannot undertake any action or discussion on items not on tonight's posted agenda. However, members of the board or its staff may briefly reply to comments or questions posed by the public. Usually, we will wait until the end of the public comment period before responding. As our meetings are held in public, your comments will be heard by those who are attending or watching a broadcast. In addition, the board encourages students to participate in civic affairs. Therefore, we hope that students are watching this meeting or in tonight's audience. Please be mindful of that, and please make your comments factual and offer them in a respectful manner. In compliance with all applicable state and federal laws, the governing board strives to respect the privacy rights of students and employees during our meetings. This includes the right for the identities of students to remain confidential. We also ask that speakers be sensitive to our employees' legal rights to privacy and confidentiality. As a reminder, those requesting to speak at this time will speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Please note that speaker cards will not be accepted once the board starts the public comments agenda item with the first speaker. Mrs. Feldman. 6. Okay, we have 6 speakers, so each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak. I will call you up in groups of 3. So first off, we have Julie Fruman, followed by Ann Carley, and then Bree Prince. Oh, wait, hold on. I see that Bree, you can walk, Julie, sorry. I see that Bree is donating time, so we'll hold off on that. So right now, Julie, followed by Ann.
Okay. Good evening. I'm here tonight because I'm deeply disappointed in the board's decision to move forward with Magic School AI without waiting for the input of the Technology Committee. The Brookings Institute's pre-mortem clearly stated that AI use in education currently presents more harms than benefits. And frankly, nothing in CVUSD is inevitable unless you allow it to be. You make the call on when these tools are introduced to our children. We don't have any say. So when you say that ship has sailed, I ask you to pause and consider how it would feel if someone said that about your children's education, about AI, something so significant and impactful. Many of us have tried in good faith to engage. We've attended DAC and PFA meetings, joined the school site council, met with all board members individually, and attended these meetings. We have shown up. But all of these spaces feel more like presentations, places where we don't really talk to each other. There's been no town hall, no roundtable, no DAC meeting on this topic, no parent survey about phone or tech policies. CVUSD parents are not allowed to observe the Technology Committee meetings. And ironically, it was a board member who once suggested I form a tech committee as a way to create this meaningful dialogue. I took that seriously. I did the work to try to make it happen, and when a committee was finally formed, I was told I could not participate because it was, quote, not a space for activism, end quote. So I want you to imagine something. Imagine your own children come home with a device every day for homework, one with access to YouTube, video games, and generative AI, which you know will interfere with the completion of that work. Would you have been able to sit beside them the entire time to make sure that they stayed on task? Would you have then removed that device immediately after and kept it hidden so that they wouldn't be tempted to go back into it? Maybe that was possible for you. But now imagine different families with busy jobs, several children, appointments, and meals. Our community members are struggling to manage this. I've heard from other parents who are told to simply monitor more, or are told that their students were told that they just shouldn't access certain content. But we cannot monitor everything. And more importantly, we shouldn't have to. Parents should have a say in when our children are given access to AI and tech products, and should not be told that this is simply the cost of attending public school. We are doing everything we can to raise our kids in a healthy, balanced way, but it's not enough if the system we're operating in won't include us. Please recognize that your decisions shape the daily lives, habits, and well-being of our entire community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Carley. I'm a parent in the district. I have a daughter who's in elementary school, a son who will be in elementary school next year. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker, spend a lot of time in the mental health field. Today I'm going to read some parent comments that were submitted through Julie's website. These are all CVUSD parents. So I'm going to give you the perspective of 4 or 5 of them, some kind of feedback that they've given us about tech. Here's one. My daughter was introduced to internet gaming on her computer by her teacher and taught in class how to access Minecraft on her Chromebook. She also has full access to YouTube and watches all kinds of junk on there at inappropriate times, including in the middle of the night. She sneaks her Chromebook into bed with her, and I don't find out until later. She has a tablet that has parental controls, so I can block websites and set up daily screen time limits as well as monitor her activity. There is nothing like this on the school-issued Chromebooks. Parents should be able to set and control limits on the Chromebook and block inappropriate websites, and parents should be able to fully monitor what their kids are accessing on those Chromebooks. My daughter exhibits screen addiction behavior, and I have to learn what to do about it, and free, unmonitored laptops from the school are not helping. Another one. Both of my kids have shared many stories of peers gaming on Chromebooks in class. We've caught our own kids gaming on Chromebooks under the guise of working on homework when we have taken away their home devices. Kids create elaborate Google slide presentations that become lengthy group chats, which can become hurtful and inappropriate and exclusionary. Our kids have lost their love of reading and writing and have become prisoners to devices over the past few years. Really miss the days before these devices became integral to their lives. Both kids were once avid readers and wrote incredible stories, even their own chapter books. We have a child entering TK who does not have access to devices, going to do everything in our power to delay this for him. Another one. Unfettered access to YouTube, because it's for learning, has led us to have to go against our household restrictions in the name of schoolwork. My 12-year-old no longer reads books at all without being forced, which has subsequently led to having a very noticeable regression in her ability to read, spell at the appropriate level, or comprehend information. And I blame the fact that her entire public school education is happening on a screen. The last one I'll read. Tech use is out of control in our first grade classroom. Certain kids know how to get onto inappropriate websites and spend their center's time messing around online and sharing what they find with other classmates. The teacher can't do much because she is working with small groups during center times. She doesn't have the ability to lock the computers down so that students can only use a designated app or website. First grade is too young to have individual access to the internet, and the parental controls the district uses are not sufficient. This is, I just read you kind of like a handful of the ones that have been submitted. I hope that the district are going to listen to these parents and take their concerns seriously. I hope the district will not be complacent, and I really don't want to hear "this ship has sailed," which was a quote from Karen in the Acorn on Friday.
Okay, next up we have Bree Prince and Haley Prince.
Hi, my name is Bree Prince. I'm a parent of a high schooler, and I'm going to donate my time to my daughter, Haley Prince.
Hello, my name is Haley Prince. I am a 15-year-old and a sophomore at Thousand Oaks High School. Some days I look completely fine, and some days I require a wheelchair. The hardest part is you can't tell the difference by looking at me. I have multiple medical conditions, including autism and mobility limitations that stem from dysautonomia and EDS, Ehlers-Danlos, a connective tissue disorder that affects my everyday life. You may contact me later if you need more details on EDS. My health is unpredictable. Some days I can push through, other days it takes a lot of my energy just to exist. But on paper, I look like I'm doing fine. I get good grades. What people don't see is everything that it takes for me to get there. Some of the hardest conditions to understand are the invisible ones. A lot of us struggle in silence because how can someone understand what they can't see? I've missed large portions of high school due to my medical conditions. I spent months on home hospital instruction, and some of that time was actually spent in the hospital, sometimes over a month. There were multiple times I could have returned to school, but the process was nearly impossible. One thing I learned is that health is not black and white, but when I go into an IEP meeting asking for help, I'm often met with black and white rules. Just because I'm not in the hospital doesn't mean I'm suddenly fine. When I was hospitalized, I was unenrolled from school every single time. I've lost access to my teachers, my assignments, and my connection to school, simply because the hospital wasn't in the school district. Can you name a children's hospital that is? I go to a school for children, and I need a hospital that also specializes in children. Sadly, they are not in the same location. I was married to truant. My mom was reported to SARB and CPS twice. This was very traumatizing for me, but I am very grateful for my amazing support team of family and friends, as well as my doctors. The reports were rightfully dismissed, but the damage has been done. I wasn't skipping school. I wasn't giving up. In fact, I completed a whole entire summer school class from my hospital bed and earned an A+. That was during surgeries, therapy, medications, and MRIs. I want to be in school. I should not have to choose between my health and my education.
All I ever wanted was a normal teenage life, worrying about tests or friend drama, not whether the school district will support me or let me fall behind. Instead of feeling supported, I felt like I was being punished, like I was too complex. Seeing absences, tardies, and even failing grades on cue when I had done the work had made me blame myself. My anxiety got worse. Hospital stays were even harder because I was consistently worrying about school. I kept asking myself, why can't I get better? Why is my body failing me? Am I just too much? But the truth is, it wasn't me failing. It was the system failing me. Accommodations are not an advantage. They are what make education accessible. That is the whole point of an IEP. The I stands for individualized. Not every student fits into the same box. IEPs are not optional plans. They are supposed to be followed consistently so students like me can have access to our education. Living with both medical challenges and autism adds another layer. Just because I can do something in one moment doesn't mean I always should. I often push past my limits to prove I could keep up and not be a problem. I struggle to communicate when I'm overwhelmed, and when support isn't consistent, it makes everything harder. Sometimes the struggle is invisible, but that doesn't mean it isn't real. Despite everything, I care about my education. I want to succeed. So today I'm asking for a change. I'm asking that students are not unenrolled or punished for being hospitalized. I'm asking for consistent access to teachers and assignments during medical-related absences. I'm asking the IEP accommodations are followed by all staff consistently, not delayed or ignored. I'm asking for better training on invisible disabilities, including autism and other chronic illnesses. And I'm asking that students like me are listened to because we know what we need to succeed. I want students to be supported before they reach a breaking point. It shouldn't require hiring an attorney for the district to take us seriously, though often it does. I want a system where no student feels like they are the problem just because they need help. Because every student has a right to an education, even when their health doesn't fit the perfect schedule. People with autism are often expected to work on black and white thinking, but right now, the system is offering me an all or nothing solution, while ignoring the flexibility of my medical needs require. This is only a small part of my story, but it shouldn't take this much to be seen. Students are not the problem. The system shouldn't be either. In the future, I want to become a pediatric psychologist and work with kids and teens with autism because I know how many kids are struggling in ways people don't see. Public speaking is not easy for me, but what I've gone through to get the support I need is much harder. And many students don't have the ability or support systems to speak up like I am right now. I don't want them to have to suffer in silence. I hope there is something you can do to help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you for coming to speak to us. Final two is Elizabeth Pierce and Tina McGraw.
Good evening, members of the board. There's a phrase that comes to mind that I think matches what goes on in our society and school district. The phrase is selective sympathy. That term means to consider the feelings of those we feel need the most sympathy without actually considering the feelings of everyone. I'm wondering if this has happened in our district with respect to the literature chosen, the sex ed curriculum, honoring ethnic groups each month during morning announcements, and especially the allowed dress code. When we choose to consider the feelings of a specified minority as the only feelings to consider, we are basically saying that other people's feelings are less important or not important at all. We should all try to avoid this. The reason we do this might be either because we feel we are one of the selected minority ourselves, or that we favor a certain cause and want it to progress. Both of these reasons make us biased and not able to see the issue from all sides. In general, as representatives of the community, the school board makes decisions on how the district should proceed, and you do a great job. In my view, the board should always take into consideration the feelings of all people involved, not just a select few. With regard to English literature, everyone's comments and votes should be considered before choosing the text. With respect to sex ed, since many families want to teach their children the sanctity of sexuality, the board should choose to minimally comply with the California Healthy Youth Act and keep health class mostly a lesson of physiology. When honoring ethnic groups each morning during morning announcements, the district should make sure they include everyone attending school in our district. This should include people of European descent. And finally, when changing the dress code back in April 2021, the board should have taken into consideration all the teachers and administration's feelings and all the students' feelings, not just the vocal minority of students. Teachers work with the students day in and day out with close interactions. As a substitute teacher myself, I feel offended most days at middle school and high school and wonder how this dress code ever passed. I'm sure there are even many students that are uncomfortable with the dress code. The question continues to arise why their feelings weren't considered back in 2021. Several possible dress codes could have been considered and voted or commented on by only considering the feelings of a small minority of students and not all the students, and especially not the teachers and administration. The board practiced selective sympathy. I challenge all of us to work on overcoming selective sympathy and instead consider all the individuals involved in an issue to have unity and fairness in our district. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Tina McGraw. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm a parent of a student in the district. I just want to say to the young lady who wants to be a psychologist, you're amazing. Wow, you're going to definitely get there, so very impressive. Thank you. Good evening, board. Good evening, members of the school board. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak today. I'm here to respectfully ask that the district's AI committee reject any policy proposals that require students to use artificial intelligence tools, especially generative AI chatbots like ChatGPT. This is not a call to reject innovation, but rather a call to proceed with caution, especially when it is not yet clear how this technology affects learning and social emotional development. First, we need to acknowledge a basic reality that there is currently a lack of long-term, independent research on the impact of AI use on children and adolescents. While AI tools are being adopted rapidly, the evidence base supporting their benefits for minors is still undeveloped. We do not yet fully understand how regular AI use affects students' cognitive development, critical thinking, writing skills, or even their sense of academic ownership. In education, we typically pilot, study, and evaluate before mandating widespread use. With AI, we are at risk of reversing this process by implementing first and studying later. In 10 years' time, we don't want to be standing here accounting for the harm that AI may potentially do to students in the same way that we are now grappling with the negative effects of handing young people smartphones and giving them social media accounts, which we know has, on a population level, done great harm to adolescents and young adults raised on those technologies. AI-generated content introduces a level of uncertainty that differs significantly from traditional educational resources. When a teacher directs students to a vetted website or database, the teacher is very clear about what the student will encounter. AI, by contrast, generates responses dynamically, and it is difficult to predict what those responses will be. They may be accurate, partially accurate, or entirely incorrect while sounding confident regardless of their accuracy. For students who are still learning how to evaluate information, this creates a confusing and potentially misleading environment. Even adults have trouble navigating this tool, so how can we expect young learners to do so? Finally, we must consider the question of responsibility. If a student is misled by AI-generated content, if their academic development is negatively impacted, or if they are exposed to inappropriate or harmful outputs, who is accountable? Is it the district, the teacher, the software provider, or the student themselves? At present, there is no clear framework for assigning responsibility or addressing harm. Requiring the use of a tool without fully understanding its risks and without clear accountability structures places both students and educators in a vulnerable position. This is perhaps the most critical consideration that should give you pause. There is nothing inherently good or heroic about early tech adoption. Please, let's not rush into AI mandates for our students. They deserve so much more.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public comments section. Thank you to all the speakers who came tonight. We are now moving on to section 3, which are our action items. Starting with 3A, approval of annual resolution number 25/26-37. Do I have a motion?
President Sylvester.
Trustee Gorbach.
I move that we approve annual resolution 25/26-37 in support of National Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Trustee Powell.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of our the CVUSD staff involved in mental health and wellness services, because as we know, it's just all so important for our kids. And I know there's been a lot of fear lately around losing some of those services. And I also want to give a shout out to all of the students who came and spoke here a couple of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whenever that was, and really shared their stories. So with such heartfelt emotion, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Powell. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Trustee Kearns.
Just quickly, I would say to anyone interested in advocating for the importance of mental health, while of course we welcome those messages here, I would absolutely say make that known on a national standpoint, and students make it known that mental health is important, and make it known that mental health is a vital part of being a student and a vital part of educating students. I know I will certainly be doing my part to do that, but did just want to let our community know that.
Great, thank you for that, Trustee Kearns. All right, seeing no other comments, let's vote. Trustee Kearns?
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
Trustee Gill?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. We are now on item 3B, approval of annual resolution number 25/26-38. Do I have a motion? Trustee Powell.
I move that we approve annual resolution 25/26-38 in support of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month as submitted.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any comments on this resolution? Okay, excellent. Seeing none, please vote. Trustee Kearns?
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach?
Yes.
Trustee Gill?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
I am a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. Moving on, item 3C, approval of annual resolution number 25/26-39. Do I have a motion? Trustee Goldberg.
President Sylvester, I move that we approve annual resolution 25/26-39 in support of Jewish American Heritage Month as submitted.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this resolution? Trustee Powell.
I just wanted to comment that the board received a letter from the Ventura County Autism Society, which is very engaged in looking at school board agendas and advocating for certain things. You're giving me a weird look.
This is the Jewish American Heritage Month. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't remember
I will hold
getting
that
the
thought
email,
until
but
we get to the
okay.
next one.
Yes.
I was trying to think.
I scrolled down too far.
Yes. We do have a number
go back
of,
up. Thank you.
We do have a number of resolutions on the agenda tonight. So, all right. So seeing no other comments on this one, please vote. Trustee Kearns?
Yes.
Trustee Powell? This is the right one?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Goldberg?
Yeah.
Trustee Gill?
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. This might be your cue, Lisa. Okay, now we're on item 3D, approval of annual resolution number 25/26-40. Do I have a motion? Trustee Goldberg.
I move that we approve annual resolution 25/26-40 in support of National Speech Language Hearing Month as submitted.
There's something a little ironic about that. Okay.
Totally
it's
is.
been
I know.
moved.
I
Do
blame
have
it
a
on diligent. We have a new system, everybody. I blame it on diligent.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, Trustee Powell?
Yes, there's discussion. Thank you, President Sylvester. And sorry, everybody, for the little mix-up here. Maybe I need to clean my glasses. So, you're right. So we did receive, as I was starting to say, the board received a letter from the the Ventura County Autism Society, Mr. Brian Schumacher, and they are, looking at our agendas and advocating for certain things. And I want to say, first of all, I really appreciated the email. He did comment in the email that CVUSD is really one of the best, if not the best, in terms of really working around and toward neurodiversity affirming practices and the like, and is really appreciative for the work here in this district. But he did a comment on the language of this particular resolution and really ask that we think about incorporating more neurodiversity affirming language. And I think it's really, for me, and that really gave me pause. I had looked at the resolution, but with that lens, after reading his email, I went back and reread the resolution, and I really felt like there are a lot of ways we could improve it. And I'm not really necessarily putting forward that we completely redo this resolution tonight. I'm going to put forward a couple ideas that I would love for us to think about maybe for next year, for this month, for this resolution. The language now is really more based in deficit language rather than assets-based language. And I would love for us to work on that to just make it more positive overall and really recognize and celebrate the differences rather than looking at them as deficits and disorders only. So I would just put that forward maybe to think about for next year.
Dr. McLaughlin.
And we do have a copy of the suggested language, so we will review it with Mr. Liu and our special education department. I think we ran this through our speech language pathologist a couple of years ago, so we'll run it back through that group as well when we make the adjustments.
Great. Thank you, Trustee Powell, for taking a look at that. Any other comments or questions on this resolution? All right. Seeing none, please vote. Trustee Kearns?
Yes.
Trustee Gill?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
I am a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a professional yes vote from Trustee Kearns. Moving on, item 3E, approval of annual resolution number 25/26-34. Do I have a motion? Trustee Gorbach.
President Sylvester, I move that we approve this very important resolution, 25/26-34, National Teacher Appreciation Week, May 4th through 8th.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Trustee Gill?
I would like to repeat in this forum something that Dr. Suter said a little while ago that deserves a larger audience. She was talking about, don't get nervous. She was talking about the time when she was teaching high school and how in her head every day was well over 200 students, what they knew, what they were struggling with, how best to reach them. And while Dr. Suter is absolutely singular, she's not alone in that. All of our teachers carry around those vast troves of data. This is not data that some people think of when they think of the word data as numbers, zeros and ones. This is qualitative data. In the world of education, qualitative data rules. And it's not just that all of our teachers every day walk into their classroom with this vast trove of data about all of their many students. It's the way they apply it. It's the fact that they're deploying that information in a carefully curated trust envelope of a classroom with a professional and skilled understanding of how learning actually happens for each one of those students. And it's deployed with tremendous dedication and caring. And I just want to recognize that and bring that forward because this trustee stands in permanent awe and respect and gratitude for that work that our teachers do. It is, I believe, the most important work that happens in our community, and it is often very, very hard work. So, thank you.
Thank you for that, Trustee Gill. I think that stands pretty firmly on its own. I can only say we appreciate our teachers, so thank you for seeing all that. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, let's vote. Trustee Kearns.
Shout out teachers, yes.
Trustee Gorbach.
Definitely yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg.
Absolutely yes.
Trustee Gill.
Yes.
I'm a yes. The motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. All right, moving on. Item 3F, approval of annual resolution number 25/26-33. Trustee Powell, do I have a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve annual resolution 25/26-33, declaring May 6, 2026 as National School Nurse Day as submitted.
Okay, it's been a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I will also like to say that we do also really appreciate our school nurses, clearly. Trustee Gorbach.
I used to be in a counseling office at a middle school, and we were always right next to the nurse's office. And we weren't next to, we were basically adjacent to, because the nurse's office does so much more than just taking temperatures and putting on Band-Aids. They really deal with the students' emotional health and family situations and all kinds of things like that. So I just wanted to recognize the complex and mostly hidden job that they do.
Thank you, Trustee Gorbach. Any other comments on this? Okay, seeing none, let's vote. Trustee Kearns.
Shout out nurses, yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach.
Definitely yes.
Trustee Gill.
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. All right, moving on, we are now on item 3G, which is approval of resolution number 25/26-30. Do I have a motion? Trustee Goldberg.
I move that we approve Resolution 25/26-30, authorizing the borrowing of funds for fiscal year 2026-2027 and the issuance and sale of one or more series of 2026-2027 tax and revenue anticipation notes, otherwise known as trans notes, as submitted.
Okay, is there a second? Trustee Powell?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Trustee Gorbach.
Could I ask for not a clarification from me, but because it looks, the immediate look of that we're borrowing funds, can we get an explanation on what this actually means from Mr. Hyatt?
Sure. Because of the timing of tax payments, many people make their tax payments only on the last day of April, where it's due April 10th, and then December, same thing, December 10th. So the way the county collects their taxes in an uneven period, they're not on a month-by-month basis, we get paid from those tax revenues. So they only pay us when they get the revenues. So we get large lump sum payments in December and April from the tax revenue collections. The rest of the months, we get very little tax revenue that feeds our LCFF and other revenues. So we pass this resolution every year just to put us into the pool should we need to borrow for cash flow purposes, because we need to bridge the gap sometimes between September, October, November until we get that big payment in December, which carries us through till April, and then we may need some additional funds for May and June. We used to borrow for first 5 or 6 years that I've been here, but for the last 5 or 6 years, we have not needed to borrow. But we do this resolution just in case cash flow puts us in a situation where we're unable to have sufficient funds to cover our monthly expenses. Not for any reason that we're doing, it's just a matter of cash flow because of how we get paid through our tax property collections. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Hayek. Any other comments or questions? I think that was a very thorough explanation. So seeing none, please vote. Trustee Kearns.
Yes.
Trustee Gill.
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg.
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach.
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. All right, moving on to item 3H. This is a runoff election for the 2026 CSBA Delegate Assembly. So first, that's how the motion should be. First, we need a motion to have this runoff election. Well, we can discuss it. just a little backdrop here. There are 3 seats open for our district. At our last meeting, I believe it was the last meeting, a couple meetings ago, we voted on our very own Lauren Gill, who got her seat, and somebody else. The 3rd seat, there was no one officially running, so there was some write-in candidates. So there's 2 write-in candidates that are now having a runoff election. It's Tommy Frutos from Santa Paula USD and Patty Lerner from Pleasant Valley School District. So I guess before we can make a motion, I guess we'd have to pick one. I'm going to first ask Trustee Gill, since you have sat on the Delegate Assembly, if you have any insight into either one of these.
My understanding is that District 11B didn't understand that it had more than 2 openings, and that's why it became clear so late in the process the ballots had gone out. And that is why there has to be this runoff. I know both of these individuals. They are highly qualified. I would like to vote for both of them, but we can't. Considerations that occur to me, Santa Paula is already represented in District 11B, and Patty Lerner is currently serving as treasurer of the exec board of Ventura County School Board Association, which is pretty valuable. I like to keep her. That's what I have to say. So it's really difficult because I really would vote for both of them if we could, but my recommendation would be to vote for Patty.
Okay. So can you make a motion for that?
I move that we approve the submission of the 2026 Delegate Assembly runoff ballot for Subregion 11B, selecting candidate Patty Lerner for a 2-year term beginning April 1, 2026 through March 31st, 2028.
Okay, second moved. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none and understanding your point of view, please vote. Trustee Kearns.
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg.
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Trustee Gill.
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. All right, we are now on section 4, which is our consent agenda. We've had 3 items pulled. The first one, this is for A-N, okay. The first one is item 4U. So I need a motion for item 4U. We're all scrolling very quickly. Okay, 4U is approval of certain contracts.
So I move that we approve item 4U, student services, approval of contracts under $5,000.
Okay.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Was this the wrong one to pull? No? Okay, is there any discussion on any of these contracts?
Yeah, I pulled it. I requested it pulled. Sorry, I'm still scrolling down to you.
I know, our new
Clearly I'm
system
having-
is
clearly I'm
not
having-
the most user-friendly.
I'm having agenda issues tonight. So I pulled this just in the abundance of caution. One of my former employers is one of the contracts. It's a very small contract, but I'm just going to recuse myself from the vote on this item because of that.
Which contract?
Music Together. I was a Music Together teacher.
Okay, all right, so Trustee Powell will recuse herself for the vote on 4U. Is there any further, does she have to leave? We don't do recusals very often. All right, let's, no. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this? All right, seeing none, please vote. Trustee Kearns?
Yes.
Trustee Gill?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
Trustee Powell? Sorry, not Trustee Powell. Didn't say that. Trustee Gorbach?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries 4-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns and a recusal from Trustee Powell. All right, we are now on item 4AN, and I have a speaker card. So do we want to do the motion first? Let's hear from the speaker first. All right. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Brandon Kornmeyer, and I'm a small business owner in Conejo Valley area here. It only seems fitting that I was here tonight when we were honoring all our sports teams. In fact, Frank Marino was my middle school history teacher, and his assistant, Brenton Frames, one of my really good friends that we played soccer at Thousand Oaks High School with. So it was a surprise seeing them. But going into this, again, I'm a small business owner. I provide sports enrichment programs in and around Thousand Oaks. In fact, a lot of the schools that are listed up here. Pre-COVID, we were doing great. We were able to advertise. We were able to do demos at school. That has since changed, and everybody, I know other small businesses that I've talked to are feeling the wrath of that. The explanation I got was that now we are on digital backpacks. We all know nobody looks at those. I even have individuals that have taken our classes several times. They didn't know we were there, even though they've been signing up every single year. It's one of those things that it's really hard for us as small business owners to continue operating and try to basically change the lives of kids. I know, I guess, again, personally, that sports change lives. They're very important growing up for your physical ability and also mental and just team aspects. And now hearing that there's a potential increase in the Facilitron rate, it's just making it harder and harder for us to offer these programs here. We try really hard to make these programs available to as many kids as possible. A little backstory on mine, my company is called TGA. We provide golf, tennis, flag football, cheerleading, soccer programs to the youth in the area, some sports that kids may never get to try. Again, I try to make it as affordable as possible without saying, hey, our program's going to be $500. A lot of these people can't afford these. Again, I was fortunate enough to grow up in the Conejo Valley. I actually went to University Elementary School, which I think is now Conejo. I'm not even sure what it is now, but then went to Redwood and Thousand Oaks High School. And I just want the same experience that I was given. I was fortunate enough that my dad got me into sports at a really young age. And just seeing what it did for me, I went off to UC Irvine, played soccer there, and just made lifelong friends doing that. Again, like I mentioned, Brenton over here, he's now teaching the girls' soccer team here. So I just hope that we're able to kind of find a solution to that so small business owners like myself are able to actually flourish here and provide these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right, now let's have a motion on this agenda item. So again, it's 4N. Trustee Goldberg.
I move that we approve 2026-2027 district fee transportation. No, that's M. Sorry, now I'm having it because I'm one
It's
below.
not hooked up correctly.
No, I know, I'm
diligent.
And
yeah, it's there.
Can you read it?
Sorry.
This one? Okay, hold on. I'm on M, so now I'm going down to N. Right. 2026-2027 district facility use fees and rules and regulations as submitted.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded.
Just read this, it would have been fine.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? This is the proposed facility use schedule. We did talk about it a little at our last meeting, along with the facility use and regulations. So any further discussion? Okay, as I mentioned at the last meeting, this isn't something that we started many years back about increasing fees, and we've pretty much held them pretty stable. I mean, I understand any fee increase is an increase, but this is a fairly small in line with our cost of living increases. So, and then, I don't know if you want to speak about the background on the digital backpack.
I mean, Mr. Luer, I can. I just briefly want to state that our digital backpacks aren't used just as a way for just our athletics or small business owners to put athletics. It encompasses all of our facilities, so it's not just about sports facilities, it's about classroom use for outside agencies that are using classrooms and other parts of our facilities. So I do want to just note it's not just particular to our sports activities, but Mr. Liu may have something else to add.
Yeah, I mean, it is a way to ensure that we're treating all entities that want to use our facilities equally and giving them the same access to our students. If that makes, I don't know if that makes sense, but there's been, I don't know if I want to go into it. It has nothing to do with the athletic facilities, but because of some groups that want to use our facilities and are entitled to use the facilities, we've gone to a digital backpack in terms of equalizing access to it. We can't really have a further discussion, I'm sorry. Feel free to reach out to any of us, all of us, via email. We can have more discussion on your comments. Anything else anyone wants to add to this? All right, seeing none, let's vote on this item. Trustee Kearns?
Yes.
Trustee Gill?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. The final item pulled from the consent agenda is item 4AR. I need a motion.
President Sylvester, I move that we adopt 4AR, Business Services Approval of Music Together Contract for CVUSD Preschool.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just for the same reason as before, I'm accusing myself.
Okay. So there has been one recusal. Any other comments on this? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Trustee Kearns?
Yes.
Trustee Gill?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach?
Yes.
I am a yes. Motion carries 4-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns and a recusal from Trustee Powell. All right, so now I need a motion on the remainder of the consent agenda.
President
Trustee Gorbach.
Sylvester.
Yes.
I move that we approve the remainder of the consent agenda as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there
Should
any?
I say as amended instead of as submitted?
As submitted. As amended? Yeah. All right, do it again.
I move that we approve the remainder of the consent agenda as amended.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Trustee Kearns?
Yes.
Trustee Goldberg?
Yes.
Trustee Gill?
Yes.
Trustee Gorbach?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
I am a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with a preferential yes vote from Trustee Kearns. Do we need a break? Are we good? Okay. It says to ask, so figured I'd ask. All right, we are now on section 5, which are information discussion items. So first up is item 5A, which is an update on our mobile communication devices policy, and Mr. Liu will be presenting this.
Good evening. Actually, I have two update presentations as we get into spring of this school year. And so the first is the update on mobile communication device policy. The purpose of the presentation is to really provide some key background to not just our Board of Education, but to anyone in the public who's viewing in, and then to provide some recent feedback that we received primarily from our teachers, as well as some student feedback on the new policy. So just as some background, all of this initiated really last year with the amendment to Education Code from the passage of Assembly Bill 3216. And that specifically noted that in the state of California, school districts no later than July 1st of 2026 would develop and or adopt and update every 5 years a policy to limit or prohibit the use by its students or pupils of smartphones while the students are at the school site or while the students are under the supervision or control of an employee or employees of that school district. The policy or the goal was to promote evidence-based use of smartphone practices to support student learning and well-being, and the development of the policy shall involve the significant stakeholder participation. And so with the passage of that law, in terms of the timeline, we brought forward and had a preliminary discussion of, the Board of Education had a preliminary discussion in early September. And at that time, the feedback was to gather additional feedback, really pursuant to the updated legislation on this important topic. And this was also, I would say, a time when we saw many school districts in California and in the local region going through a pretty quick process in which boards of educations, not ours, were just quickly adopting policies and moving forward. And so staff worked closely to gather that additional stakeholder feedback, and on February 5th, we brought forward an item back to the Board of Education, which provided information on that feedback we gathered, which included information from our UACT teachers, student DAC, as well as survey input from school site administrators, counselors, psychologists, mental health staff, as well as representation from all of our district parent advisory councils and committees. At that time in February, the Board of Education made revisions to the board policy 5131.8. Those revisions were made through consensus. Fast forward 2 weeks to that, we placed the item again for a second time for information discussion for the Board of Education to have a further review and discussion, and at that time they made additional amendments through consensus. And these were all done, I would say, in an effort to make sure that we were having a really transparent and deliberative process, in which case the Board of Education in public was able to deliberate, receive feedback, and carefully craft the policy. So finally, on March 5th of 2025, the Board of Education took action to approve those amendments, and at that time requested a future review of the implementation of this policy. And lucky for me, I am still here, and I get to give that update. Again, this is all sort of a rehashing of everything that you all know, but I do think it's important for the public to know and to remember that it was a really deliberative and I would say very transparent process. And so part of the multiple revisions that were done in public and made through consensus, I have a couple of highlights just to share. This was the language that we had specifically, that the Board of Education specifically updated and added into policy 5131.8. I won't read it here, but we can note we have specific expectations for all students, and then we delineated varied expectations for preschool students to 8th grade students, which notably here was that students would not be permitted to use any of their devices, whether they be cell phones or smartwatches, during instructional or non-instructional time, which included passing periods, recess, nutrition, and lunch. And then for 9th grade to post-secondary, a little different. Students would be able or permitted to use those devices during that non-instructional time. We also spent time reviewing this particular highlight that I have here on the screen. All of this language that we have here, with the exception of the portion that I will read verbatim, comes specifically from California law. The part that the Board of Education discussed and amended is the subsection in 2, which states that the Board of Education strongly encourages teachers to consistently limit the use of mobile communication devices in the classroom. That provided additional information to these 4 specific exemptions that California law makes. And so subsequent to the passing of the policy, we did our best to inform the community being parents and guardians as well as staff and students. Informing the community really began in spring of 2025 and continued on really as we started the school year. I provided a couple of sort of snapshots of some information that, thanks to Kim Gold, our communications coordinator, put together to really, again, share information district-wide about the policy, as well as nuanced and differentiated information based off of grade span. So we, probably a month ago, we sent out a survey to all of our teachers, and we were really grateful to get their responses on this topic as well as a couple other related topics. And so we wanted to share some of that survey feedback with you all. And so that's the next couple of slides. In case you're curious, just before we get into some of the details of it, for the responses here, which include grades TK through 12, the general response rate for our teachers was about 64%, which I would say, having, again, been lucky to be here for a number of years, that's a pretty high percent. So about 64%, and I would say, just to let you know by grade span, at the elementary level, it was about a 63% response rate. At the middle school level, about 54%, and at the high school, it was about 73, which was the highest grade span in terms of just responses. So to look a little more carefully at the data, we asked our teachers to respond, asking them how they themselves as teachers were consistent with the new or updated policy. And you can see what their self-reflections and self-reporting are. You can note here, if you look at my cursor, you can't see the fill, but this column represents all of the teachers that responded to the survey, and I ranked them from the most, I would say, highly rated to least, moving down. So overall, our teachers assessed that and reflected that they were fully consistent with applying the new policy on mobile communication devices. You can note that we see a much higher reported percent at the elementary and middle school. When compared to the high school, we do see some variation where we see more teachers either reporting fully consistent or mostly consistent, again, with their own consistency in following the updated policy. Looking here, we did ask our teachers to assess the impact from their perspective on this updated policy, and we can note here what some of their reporting is. Generally, I think that the data shows that there's generally positive impacts to the new policy. If we look here, and just to explain some of the nuances, we see that there's not a noticeable change, or certainly not a large noticeable change at all at the elementary level, and that's because the change to our policy really did not change much or any of the policy or practices at our elementary schools. And so that may seem troubling or concerning, but that is just a reflection of where our elementary schools were. You can note, though, for the secondary schools, a large number of our teachers are reporting a positive impact in terms of student engagement and a positive impact on classroom management, as well as a reduction in distractions. I should note, just from a survey standpoint, we did ask teachers to select all that apply. And if you're curious, that's why if you totaled up our columns, they do exceed 100%, because a teacher could have selected all three, for instance, of the boxes here. In terms of improvements, we did ask our teachers what improvements based off of their experience this year they sought, and you can note here that really it was kind of a split between make the policy more strict or keep the policy as is if you look at the overall, and then looking at it specifically by grade span, you see, again, for elementary, this probably just being generally less of an issue. However, at the high school, again, you can see sort of how that split runs between make the policy more strict or keep the policy as is. I will say, as I've gone through the survey results at length, I can probably talk a little bit about the inherent limits of a survey. We did not define specifically in the survey, like what did we mean by more strict? Or less strict. I think strict is a pretty subjective word. I did look into some of the open response data to try to get a better sense of what some of our teachers may have understood to be as strict. And looking at that, and in the feedback particular, I think there was a question of, does more strict mean that, for instance, our site administrators have a stricter enforcement or have stricter consequences for students who maybe not be following the new policy, as opposed to strict meaning increased consistency or strictness amongst teachers or colleagues themselves, meaning is the teacher down in room 8 being as strict or consistent as I am in the adjacent room. And so in looking through the open responses, we had about 2 or 3 times more comments that related to a teacher's desire for teachers themselves to be more consistent when compared to requests for school administrators to be more strict in their enforcement. Again, the survey information gives us some information, but again, does have some limits. We took a look at the teacher feedback, again, to some of those open responses, and I tried to sort of provide 3 specific themes based off of the quantity of frequent feedback. And so I kind of chunked these into, we saw the themes of support for the policy in terms of reducing distractions, which is positive. A teacher noted that phones were a major distraction before, and this has helped me significantly. Again, there's a sort of a theme of teachers asking for more increased consistency amongst one another. The third comment states, students will try to use phones when they think they can get away with it, or it only works if everyone is enforcing it the same way. And then we spoke a little bit about enforcement challenges. A teacher noting that enforcement of the policy within the classroom and the realm of the teacher can at times take away time from instruction. So we did survey our Student District Advisory Committee. We were really thankful for their responses. We did have 20 responses. I didn't really want to, or I didn't feel like it was necessarily fair to provide the quantitative responses given that it was such a small sample size. However, we provided some anecdotal feedback that I did feel like really reflected some of the general statements and the feelings made by students in SDAC. And you can see there's a wide variation of feedback. The first one is the student is, just noting they view that the policy is good and that it allows students to be more attentive and focused during class. Another student suggested maybe we have a more lax cell phone policy, stating that cell phone usage maybe could be a good classroom incentive to completing work, and so forth. So that's kind of an update on, how we've implemented the policy. And again, I think that we wanted to provide as much teacher feedback as possible, just knowing that in essence and by law, some of the outcomes of it were really to improve learning outcomes for students and teachers, of course, being with students and interacting and seeing phones and dealing with phones on a constant basis. But I do think that the Student District Advisory Committee comments were helpful and reflective and kind of mirrored a little bit of what we saw in the data.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments? Trustee Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, for that comprehensive update, and especially for taking us through the very transparent, open, and deliberative way that we came to revising this policy, because I think it bears on some of the public speakers' comments this evening. We're having related conversations, not just here in this district, but across the nation about device use beyond personal phones and so on. Those considerations about both software applications and the devices themselves, Chromebooks and others, require that we follow a similar open, transparent, deliberative process in order to get things right. And I absolutely understand the frustration of some folks who would like us to move more quickly. But we have an opportunity, as we often do in this district, to lead, and leading with policy solutions requires not just intention but time. It requires that we listen carefully, that we reflect, that we come up with trial solutions, and that we take the time to see how those work. So I appreciate that you took us through some of that history, because I really do think it bears on questions that are before us right now.
Thank you. Trustee Powell.
Thank you for providing this update. And as I was sort of thinking through the data and some of this feedback before our meeting, I found that most of my thoughts or questions really was around that indication that teachers want a stricter policy, whatever that means, right? And that's part of the question. So I'm just going to throw out some things that I was sort of thinking about when I looked at that data. And I guess I know that we have, Ed Code requires us to offer these exceptions to an off and away policy, right? And so I kind of wondered a couple things around that. And we had the example last year of Thousand Oaks High School, as well as Redwood, who had really had these site-led discussions and really wanted consistency across their campus and came up with some agreements, which seemed to really show that things were working really well in terms of having like an off and away kind of policy, right? And so I'm curious, do we know of other sites that have engaged in that similar kind of process? Because I'm wondering if whether we're requiring it or strongly encouraging it or really asking sites to go have that kind of conversation, would we potentially see things like we saw at Thousand Oaks High School in Redwood and having more consistency across classrooms and then hopefully teachers feeling like, hey, this is great, we're seeing the consistency, people are being more strict, et cetera. I also wonder about the consequence issue, because I wonder if we have clear consequences for having phones out, and they're very consistent across the board, if that would help this issue at all. I know that I looked at Las Virgenes's policy, and they have those consequences very, listed out very clearly. 1 violation, 2 violations, this and that. I also noticed that in their policy, they didn't list the exemptions to a full ban on phones, which is interesting because we know that we're required to follow that law, but we also laid out those exemptions out really clearly in our policy, and I don't know if that's having an effect too, like more of a general feeling like, and even you saw in a couple of the comments, like, oh, it's great that teachers have the flexibility to do whatever they want. Well, that wasn't our intention at all with what we put forward last year. So those are just some of my initial thoughts around how do we, are there ways to sort of tighten this up so that people are feeling like there's more consistency across the board?
Just to clarify, you're saying that Las Virgenes doesn't list out these 4 exemptions, they just refer to Ed Code? I mean, they have to follow these.
They say, it's like something like, it's a bell-to-bell ban with some exceptions in Ed Code, and then they don't specify what they are. That's my recollection from reading it last week.
Was there a question at the end of it? I guess the question, I guess the overriding question at this point, number one, first of all, I'm thankful for the number of teachers who took the time to fill out the survey. That is a really good survey response, and I think it really helps us get an idea of what's going on. Clearly, obviously we had to do it, but the intent to do it was to improve student outcomes, and it does feel, especially on your page 10, that there has been a successful response to this policy. Part of why we wanted to bring this back was also to say, does the policy itself need any adjustments? We had one student doc member who wants to have a more relaxed policy. I mean, so that would be one direction we can go in. There seems to be some issues with consistency across teachers. I don't know if that's something you can necessarily write into a policy, and maybe it should take place at a school site. But that to me is really the question before us. Is there any changes in any direction to this policy? So thoughts on that? Trustee Gorbach.
If I remember correctly, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, one of our DACs very universally recommended that we cut out the one-to-one program from TK through 3. Does that sound familiar to anybody who's been in our DAC meetings?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You're talking about Chromebooks.
Right.
Yeah, that we'll be addressing at some point in the future. This is mobile devices, so really cell phones.
Got it.
That's okay. Trustee Kearns.
Okay. So here's my thing with cell phones. I feel like you could go around and around in circles all day, every day, talking about how to limit cell phones this, how to limit cell phones that. But I feel like the teachers are the ones who are actually like in the classroom, experiencing the cell phone usage, and know when and when it may not be appropriate. And I know there was concerns about, teachers being able to have the policy back them up. And to me, referencing slide 6 here, all students' mobile communication devices shall be turned off and/or on silent mode and put away during instructional time. To me, I feel like that policy really gives teachers something to go back on and say, well, this is district policy. Like, you're not allowed to have your cell phone. I honestly do not see the issue beyond that. I know we've had some public commenters, we've had some select email comments, but I really I'm struggling to see the issue beyond what is written there. I think we have an excellent policy already. I feel like we spent a really long time on it last year. Personally, I have seen, I wouldn't say it's like no cell phones, but I think students' approach to cell phones has drastically changed since this policy. For TO, it was like 2 years ago, but for the rest of the district, it was last year when we changed the policy. But when Dr. Bergman first started, I guess you could call it a media campaign against cell phones and talking about the new cell phone policy that he was putting in place on TO's campus 2 years ago, after that, there was way less cell phone usage in class, at least that I've noticed. And I do feel confident making that claim on TO's campus. I think I've heard from just about everyone that I've talked to as far as a student is concerned, there is absolutely unequivocally less cell phone usage as a result of this policy in a significant manner. And just to tie it all up, I would point you back to that first line there. I feel like that provides more than enough coverage for any teacher to rely on this policy, but then it also provides them not only our legal responsibility to students to have their cell phones in the policy, but also the ability for teachers to kind of interpret that in a way that makes sense for their classroom. I know just the other day I was in math class and I finished my homework. I was working for an hour and a half straight, and my teacher was like, yeah, you can go on your phone for the last 5 minutes of class. There's no problem with that. I mean, realistically, that sort of situation, it just doesn't make sense to be, especially at the high school level, and really only at the high school level, it just doesn't make sense to be trying to get down to the nitty gritty of making sure cell phones are not being used every single minute of every single day, especially when you have a policy like this that puts power into the hands of teachers, quite frankly, which I think is a good thing. So that's my thought.
Thank you. That was a good comment, good summary. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think what we grappled with the last go round, and as both Mr. Liu and Trustee Gillis pointed out, we spent a lot of time on this and really, I think, came up with something that, in my opinion, is good. The one thing we were grappling with was the high school and whether that should follow the same preschool to 8th grade off and away all day. I haven't seen anything here to suggest that we need to tighten that up. And yet I do see some, almost 60% of our grade 9 through 12 teachers, and again, that's 74% or 73% responded, see a positive impact on student engagement. So we are having an impact, so that makes me quite happy, and I'm not sure there's more we want to do, but open to hearing from other trustees on this.
I mean, do we need to try to get more clarity on what that make policy more strict? I mean, I'm just taken by that 58% of high school teachers and that 54% of middle school teachers that want a policy that's more strict. I mean, I've always been supportive of a bell-to-bell ban, sorry, Finn, for high school as well. And so I am looking at that 58% wondering. But because I think if we don't have clarity there, that we're not going to, I mean, I think do nothing at this point isn't the appropriate response. I would like to figure out what a next step is to make this better.
I'm gonna. There's lots of principals in the room, or former principals that are now at the district office. Strict means discipline and following kids' discipline. And I can tell you, you can reference Las Virgenes' policy all you want. They're not following through with their steps and their discipline policy because we're hearing that amongst our group. So we can put together, here's our discipline we're going to follow. Teachers can come back and say, well, you need to do this, this, and this. But I will say strict means discipline when you're on a school site, for the most part, when you're talking about consequences for students. They want consequences. They want to know what those consequences are, and they want kids disciplined. And if that's the route the board wants to go, then I would say throw out the 4 things that Las Virgenes did, and we can do that. But I will tell you, they're not implementing that in full fidelity there. So it does us no good to say this is the way we're going to go, unless you want to do that, and then we're going to have to enforce it. But normally, what the principal had on, with lots of principals in the room, strict means discipline when you're talking, for the most part, with a teacher and how to handle a situation. Anyone disagree? I'll take it, because I think that that's really where we stand.
A couple of things just that come to mind that like really are outside of making any specific changes to the policy, but talk about just further implementing what our current policy is, right? We did this for a year, we've got some data, we did some learning. What's our next step to continue to implement this? And some of that might be, to answer Trustee Powell's, some of the questions that you said, you know, that we definitely do have some schools that I'll reference, you know, like make a specific pledge as a group to say we are gonna, right, hold firm. And a lot of that times that's not the principal saying, hey, we all need to do this. That's teachers coming together to say, hey, like we all want to do this to agree. And so we do have some schools where they have, like they very much focus on being on the same page, and we have others that don't. And in terms of having like consequences laid out at the schools, I would say, and I don't have them all in my head because I can tell you that they're different, but we don't, like all of our schools have a set of progressive like steps, like when it comes, and I'm talking secondary schools. But we've not yet had the opportunity to have our principals share, as the year has gone through, what are the steps that we have at this particular middle school or high school? How has that worked? What's the data that we've seen? Maybe this is an opportunity for us to get consistent together outside of perhaps having the Board of Education state to schools and administrators what they shall or shouldn't do, but that this might be a good opportunity for some collaboration and getting some more consistency just naturally as we have the policy itself. So.
Yes, I'm not, I know I put my mic on an inopportune moment, but I'm not disagreeing with you. I would actually agree that I feel like there isn't, like students don't feel like there is a consequence for using your phone beyond just like a slap on the wrist from your teacher, which, you know, with some teachers can be quite severe. But I would stand quite firmly that the policy that we have as written is strict enough from like the perspective of limiting cell phone use, but from the perspective of like Dr. McLaughlin was sharing, like strict in terms of like punishment, if you will, or like corrective action. I do think there's probably work to be done there as far as consistency is concerned. So I would agree with what both of you said.
So quick question, because we've cited now 2 schools, Thousand Oaks and Redwood, which came together, rallying cry from teachers, et cetera. Did we see any difference, I don't want to create more work for you, Mr. Liu, in the data from those teachers in terms of impact, consistency, et cetera? Is there a way to kind of get at that?
There is a way, but I have not done that. Yeah, so we could, if desired, I could do that for sure.
Because I mean, if what we're suggesting is that that is a good approach, let's see if that is a good approach.
But that is what we did. They were the pilots upon which we based the policy.
Right. Yeah, no, I know that. So now at this point, 2 years in, or 2 years into TO and a year in, are they seeing, will they answer the same way about consistency and motivation as a school that didn't approach it that way?
And maybe it's a way for them to sort of share their expertise and what they've learned with people who are newer at it, right? Like if teachers are feeling like they need a little more help and support in the consistency or strict things, and why not ask somebody who did it already, what worked for them?
I think I do think sometimes it's an individual issue where a teacher is thinking, I'm implementing it, this is the way I do it in my classroom, I would like everybody else to do it that way, and I think that was the example. And so we're back to that, your question again, how are we gonna get that if I feel a specific way? There is a feeling involved in this and an implementation in your classroom versus somebody else who's a little bit more lax or free thinking with phones or the ability to have kids have access to them. So I think we're always going to run into that approach unless, I mean, we come up with, we all know the pouches over the course of this last year were whatever districts bought those did not think that process through. Some, obviously, companies made some money off of school districts. Those have, at least everything I've read up to this point, have been a downfall because it's so easy for them to be opened. You can buy the devices to open the magnets up on Amazon. You can smash them off a cafeteria table and they open up right away. So, I mean, I think that there's all sorts of methods and thoughts going into this. I think another year of implementation might be what we need to gather data, or we go to a very strict policy. And when I talk about strict, I'm talking about teachers saying that they want administration to handle the 4 steps, not any stricter in their classroom, but they want admin to handle, these are the 4 steps leading to, eventually, I've talked to you 4 times, you need to be suspended out of my class or off campus, and we can't do that. So what would be the 4 steps? And then again, then it comes to consistency of maybe discipline at the beginning of the year. Sooner or later, this policy is gonna, if you have all these strict policies or strict consequences in place, and there's so much other stuff that happens on a secondary campus, these are gonna get pushed back, and then people are gonna be more frustrated that these 4 steps are not being followed because we're dealing with these other issues on campus. So those are just things that you have to mitigate and think through as you work through these and think through these policies.
Yeah, and I agree. It sounds like there's things that can be done within the framework of the current policy to really strengthen implementation. I will say that I love Kim Gold's graphics. I think they're fabulous. And because I'm sure the other trustees get this too, we get the complaints from parents of like, well, my kid is using her phone in class and they're not, we're trying to understand why this is allowed. And I just send them that graphic. I say, this is the policy. Here you go. And then let them go back to their school site and figure it out.
And I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I have a daughter who's a sophomore in high school, and she probably sent me 10 texts throughout the course of the day today. I responded to 2 of them. So it is hard. So
You have to correct the parents.
I know.
And we do not know the policy of that school district. Or maybe we do.
I do. I do.
Go ahead.
Oh, you can go.
I was going to bring up something else.
I'll just say that before Trustee Powell brings up something else, I'm glad to hear that everyone has recognized that the pockets were a colossal failure. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I was saying that from day one, LAUSD. But notwithstanding, what was I going to say? I think it's a little bit premature to be like editing the actual like policy, like the skeleton of the policy. I think Dr. McLaughlin, you were the one who said this. It's just, it has not been long enough. Like I feel like we do maybe need a second year of data. And so I would definitely agree with that approach. I know for TO, like it is kind of like cell phone usage is like a cultural thing, I feel like. So changing culture and changing that sort of like idea around using cell phone in class takes time. It was interesting to see the shift at TO and like kind of how it waxes and wanes. And I've even seen teachers like change policy for their classroom like in the middle of the school year. One of my teachers was like, all right, this isn't working. Like I'm gonna be a little bit more strict now about the cell phone policy just for everyone in this room's benefit. So I do think while I think this policy is good enough and it will prove itself, I would definitely think it would be a good approach to kind of revisit this next year and definitely work on a lot of those other changes within the framework of the policy that we've been talking about learning about what other schools are doing, working for disciplinary action, and those sorts of things.
I also think, just to tag on to that as our elementary and middle school students who have a more restrictive policy move into high school, hopefully that will change their behavior and they learn that they don't really need to be on their phones during every passing moment. So I'm hopeful that over time we will see that impact as well.
And also that not that they don't need to use their cell phone, but that it's not that's not what you do at school. At school, we don't use our phones. So like, as long as that's the culture shifts take time. Well, that's a prime example of how we can, hopefully it goes that way.
Trustee Powell.
I was just going to make the comment, I think an unintended consequence of this policy is that students seem to be, at least the reports that we're getting, and I don't know if there's any data collected on this or what we've heard from school sites, is that they're now jumping on their Chromebook, say at lunch or recess or whatever, to play games. And so to me, that defeats the purpose of what we were trying to achieve, and I don't know, how we face that challenge. And again, I don't know how, what that actually looks like, but it's something we hear about a lot for sure.
And that not really part of a mobile communication device strategy, but a Chromebook is mobile, but we are working on our technology strategy. Because I had the same reaction I've heard, and it's anecdotal. So I don't know how widespread a problem this is, and certainly some of the administrators and teachers on our campuses might have a better idea that if, seventh graders are sitting on Chromebooks instead of phones, I don't know. Often we hear from a small handful of people, so it's hard to say how prevalent an issue it is.
My guess would be that it's probably a 6th grade issue. Maybe part of 7th, 8th grade, it's probably not, because they're a little bit more social when they have those opportunities to socialize. But I would guess it's probably based on a couple of the emails that I've received, I've kind of gathered that it's probably a 6th grade group of students that are more active playing games versus 8th graders who tend to be wanting to do 8th grade things when they have that opportunity at lunch or passing periods.
What I'm about to say is extremely anecdotal because it's mostly relying on my experience from 6 or 7 years ago. But I think there's a huge social aspect to the Chromebook games specifically. And yes, I know there's been an effort to ban them, but that's kind of an impossible mission. There's always 1,000 new websites, and they all have very interesting games. I have quite fond memories of them from a long time ago. But I think if the goal is to maintain a social ability among students, I feel like almost Chromebook games is just kind of another way of facilitating that, because I don't remember anyone just kind of playing the games by themselves. It was all oh, how'd you do this? Or watching one Chromebook, for example, at lunch. That's always what I've observed. Maybe it has changed since I was in those spaces, but I have always observed a very social, in-person social aspect to video games, particularly on the computer. A little bit different on cell phones. Those are easier not to share. But I mean, if you have your computer out and your laptop and you're surrounded by a bunch of people, people are going to ask what you're doing, and you're going to want to talk about what you're doing. And if it's a game, they're probably all going to start playing that game, and then that's a really I feel important social exchange. Definitely played a big role in my childhood and my growing up, and so I feel that social exchange over playing computer games and playing video games, because they are such a massive part of our society, is really important and should be given some respect of its own. However, if Chromebooks are being used as a substitute, and if all of Redwood Middle School is just sitting on their laptops far away from each other, 6 feet social distanced, that's a different situation, but I don't think that's happening.
So 2 things. One, you look where you are today, so that's good. 2, I don't want to get too far afield on Chromebooks, because that will be a very separate agendized item, but I do appreciate the perspective, so thank you. So I guess, any other comments or questions? So I guess the primary, I'll go back to what the primary question is, and I'm hearing fairly consistent, not 100% consistency, to keep this policy as it stands right now, and again, revisit it, and giving it another year of implementation, maybe trying to discern if the schools that approached it differently had stronger results, or that didn't matter, and hear from Mr. Liu about this a year from now. Is that fair, Trustee Powell? I said almost 100%.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think that we've already talked about some ideas of, what to talk about at schools and go back to schools, administrators and teachers about, and get some clarity on, and hopefully we'll see less phones out at schools next year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think the less cell phone usage during the school day is better. I don't see throwing, I mean, the ed code thing we have to follow. So I think our policies should be as transparent as they should be. So I don't like the concept of, you know, we're just gonna kind of like mention in a sidebar that there's this other ed code out there, but that's just me personally.
Well, that's why I like the graphics that we can display. They don't have the exemptions on there.
Okay, that's fair. Trustee Kearns?
Yes, I definitely support that path of moving forward for sure. If someone wants to reach out to me when that occurs, I might consider writing an email. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
And as always, any input that anybody wants to provide to the board, we always love to hear from people. All right, can we now move on to the next topic, which is item 5B, which is an update on district grading practices, also being presented by Mr. Liu.
All right. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide an annual update on progress that we've made to implement district-wide equitable grading practices, including, at this point, more of a brief background, actions we've taken this year, and some feedback, survey feedback we've gathered from our teachers and students, as well as to talk about next steps. Last year, we brought forward, I think it was 2 or 3 teachers that shared some of their specific practices. And I think that was great because it really illustrated what this looks like in the classroom. This year, for our update and report out, we wanted to dive more into and provide the Board of Education more of the survey data, which again, I shared previously. I do feel like we had a positive response rate. So some brief background here, just in terms of the history of this particular topic. In spring of 2021, our Board of Education at the time established the goal of creating an equitable secondary grading policy. There was a lot happening at that point in time as we were coming out of COVID-19 and doing a lot of really important work related to COVID as well as not related to COVID. And so that necessitated a little bit more time, and so fall of 2022, we introduced and started implementing at the secondary schools. This was really an introduction for our secondary schools into some important concepts that I'll talk about that are actually on the right of the screen. And in 24-25 school year, we did an introduction to these same concepts at the elementary schools. At that time, grades 3, 4, and 5 were using letter grades, and through the discussion of the teachers last year and then implementing this year, grade 3, we actually moved to a standards-based report card similar to TK-2, which is absolutely in line with those equitable grading practices, and so that kind of left grades 4 and 5 sort of lumped in with our secondary schools implementing these equitable grading practices. At the ongoing sort of space, we continue to provide training and, really importantly, probably more collaboration on this particular topic to really have our teachers encourage them to explore a range of these various practices. On the other side of the slide, you can see the 3 pillars of equitable grading, which I won't talk too much about, but that is grading practices that are centered around accuracy, that are resistant to bias, and that are motivational for our students. Before I click off right there, part of our introduction to this concept for our teachers and for our school district was the work of Joe Feldman in the book Grading for Equity. That actually has been sort of part of the through line in terms of our history and learning. Just to sort of paint a picture, and I don't think that we talk too much about this, but we have these 3 pillars that, you know, underscore these big ideas, but there are actually 19 specific grading practices that align to these pillars from that book. And so it's good just to keep in mind, and we'll look through the data, that there is not just 3 specific practices, there's actually 19. And that's just 19 that this particular author describes falling under these 3 particular pillars. As part of the background, I wanted to share with the public and the Board of Education just some key highlights from our existing board policy and administrative regulation. The first two sort of really work together. The first is reflective of California Education Code and consistent with our policy, which is the teacher of each course shall determine the student's grade. We are, as teachers, as we say, are the arbiter. They are the decision maker behind the grade. The second part, which is part of our board policy, and it's gamut board policy aligned with gamut language, which is also that the superintendent or designee shall establish a uniform grading system based off standards that apply to all students in that course and grade level, and that principals and teachers shall ensure the students' grades conform to this system. And so while teachers have full authority over their grades, the superintendent or designee have a obligation and an ability to create a uniform grading system. We do have a grading policy itself, which is reflected in our existing board policy and our administrative regulation. The third is our most recent, and the Board of Education's most recent amendments to this particular topic, and that really was done, I believe, two and a half years ago. And that was more of a philosophical statement that we provided to our teachers and to our community, noting that the Board of Education is committed to the exploration and implementation of mastery-based grading practices, and that in an effort to support those practices, the Board of Education encouraged teachers, teacher innovation and flexibility to engage in practices which are accurate, free of bias, and motivational. So taking those together, some actions that we've done this particular year. This has been our first year implementing the new standards-based report card and reporting system for third grade. We've actually gotten a lot of positive feedback from our teachers on not only the product itself, but the process that the teachers did at the third grade level to create and implement this new standards-based report card. Through this year and the prior, that team, that committee has been working to really see how that's been working and to make adjustments. Also this year, in terms of creating standards-based rubrics, there's work underway on creating a writing handbook, which includes standards-based rubrics for each grade, again allowing students to have an accurate understanding of where they are in terms of the standards, and ideally providing them motivation so they understand what their expectations are. At the secondary level, and really as we came in to start this year, we really encouraged our secondary departments to identify common and consistent grading practices at the school sites within the departments. I don't think that we were necessarily 100% successful in that. I think we got feedback from all of our secondary departments on generally what they agreed were some practices that they would engage in, but it did lack some specificity in the agreed upon to site department common strategies. In our articulation meetings, where we have the opportunity to work with some amazing teacher leaders, we continue to have discussions and encouraged within content areas for teachers to share out their practices and learnings when it comes to implementing these equitable grading practices. These practices are also aligned with a number of the professional development efforts, as well as programmatic efforts that we've been making at many of our secondary schools. Two of our comprehensive high schools are participating in the CAPS PLC training, where equitable grading is a keystone really to that PLC process, and training's been provided there, as well as for all of our IB schools, Newbury Park High School, Sequoia, and also Cypress. The development of standards-based grading scales is a actual required element of IB, and so that's been an area of training as well. All of those, again, are in alignment with the implementation of the secondary grading, of the equitable grading practices. So just to provide a little evidence to the Board of Education, this is a training slide that we have used actually for the last couple of years when presenting information to our elementary teachers, in this case grades 4 and 5, about what some of these practices look like. Just noted here, some of those practices may be avoiding zeros or weighting more recent performance. At the secondary level, we wanted to provide the Board of Education some evidence of what, as we encouraged our departments to identify common grading practices, we wanted to share with the board and the public sort of the nuanced differences as we looked at each of the different departments. You can see that as we look through what the secondary departments reported out, that math, science, English language arts, and history social science, they kind of took similar approaches when it came to the grading practices noted here regarding late work, revision, minimum grades, and the approach overall. And those differed than our teachers in PE, visual and performing arts, and career technical education. To talk a little bit about this, for example, like we look at late work. For math, science, and English language arts, and history social studies, many of our departments took the approach of, yes, allowing students to turn in late work, but within a more specified time frame. And that is because, for these content areas, that learning is more cumulative and sequential, not wanting to have students, for instance, provide late work 3 months later on a topic that really is essential and that they really should be knowing within a month's time, as compared to PE, visual and performing arts, and CTE, where that late work was accepted throughout the grading period because these typically were skills or performances that students could demonstrate at any point in time. Another difference, sort of just to note down in terms of the overall grading approach, for math, science, English language arts, and history social studies, the grading approach was really focused on content mastery, understanding state standards and demonstrating that, whereas in the PE, visual performing arts, and CT, it was more of a demonstration or mastery of skills. So we want to highlight to the board, again, as we've done this, that we've noticed, I would say, the importance of not every department is going to be grading the same. And that to each content area really belongs its own sort of unique way that fits that particular content area. So similar to the prior presentation, we have a number of data slides to provide you. In terms of the participation rate here, we looked at just grades 4 through 12 because TK through 3, they're not implementing these particular grading practices. The overall response rate also was similar, it was about 64%, so I would say strong. For grades 4 through 5, we got about 60% of our grade 4 through 5 teachers to respond. At the middle school level, it's 56%, and for high school, it was 73%. Similar to the prior presentation, I organized these sort of from highest to lowest in terms of a top 3. So this top 5. So this particular question was to ask teachers which of the equitable grading practices are they using? And they had the opportunity to select all that apply. Thus, we see percentages in the columns that exceed 100%. But of the 19 practices, for instance, that are in the Grading for Equity book, we asked and gave them the choice to assess or to rate 14 different practices, and these were the top 5. So you can note overall through grades 4 through 12 that the most common was accepting late work without penalty, and then allowing for retakes and redos, the use of rubrics, not providing opportunities for extra credit, and then excluding student participation and effort. You can see how it's fairly consistent across the grade spans when we look at the number of teachers reporting that they accept late work without penalty. And then you can see some variation between elementary and our secondary schools for the other areas. I will say, for instance, if you look at the use of rubrics, this probably is something that's just more inherent to the existing nature of elementary education, that predated the efforts that we've done recently for common grading practices. Also, too, sorry to go back, we did find 2 in the data, and we have consistently found in the data that the teachers, many teachers will tell us well, I've been doing these practices since I've started teaching. And so this may be a new district-wide effort, but I've actually been doing them for quite a while. In terms of the teacher survey, we did ask for them to assess their perception of the impact that these practices have had. And we, again, asked them to select any and all that apply. And you can see from sort of the top 5, the highest being that teachers noted that generally they feel like students have pretty much the same motivation and that letter grades have not changed too much. The next is about 36% of teachers reported that student letter grades generally feel higher than they were prior, and about 35% state that grades are more representative of student learning, with 22% saying that their students are generally more motivated because of these practices. Again, you can see how this is for all of our teachers, and then note that there's not a significant discrepancy between elementary and secondary, with the exception of just a general decline in the positive reporting for some of these when it goes from elementary to secondary and then into high school. We asked this question about consistency, mostly as it related to consistency amongst teachers at the same grade level or department using the same consistent grading practices that that teacher used. And so you can note that the highest response was that teachers felt that it was somewhat consistent, which is at 52%, 21% at highly consistent, 17% at not consistent. And then again, you can see the variation by grade span. We asked a question in terms of, based off of what's happened, what are some additional actions or supports that can be taken that can help to support the implementation of these grading practices? And this is how that data fell out. You can note that 48% of teachers, as they were able to mark all that applied to them, 48% noted that department collaboration would be more valuable, or would be valuable. Next was clear district guidelines, followed by examples, models from colleagues, and then more towards the bottom was professional development. I do want to note the difference specifically at the elementary and secondary. And so if you look at the elementary and secondary, we have a much higher reported desire for clear district guidelines and examples from colleagues at the elementary level. I would hypothesize that that is because we are only really in the year and a half of implementation regarding these concepts. Again, just keeping in mind the timeline, our elementary folks started this probably 2.5 years after our secondary folks have gotten into this. And so that definitely is a difference to consider. I would also just say, too, as I've had the great opportunity to learn more about all of our amazing grade spans, I think that our elementary teachers generally do like things more consistent and more uniformity district-wide. Looking at the secondary, the highest rated at the middle school and a little bit more pronounced at the high school was the desire for more department collaboration. And so in an effort to better understand this data in particular, we reached out to a particular high school department chair just to say, hey, what did you put on here? And when we talk about department collaboration, what does that mean? And that actually led to a conversation with this department chair about what was his feeling for the request to have clear district guidelines. And so I want to share that with you as we try to make sense of some of these numbers. And again, I would say the limitations of a teacher survey, or any survey, sorry. And so this teacher they stated they reported, I really put that I wanted more department collaboration. And the reason why is because in order for our department to engage in these practices together, we need the time. Specifically, we need time to say, hey, we're all going to be starting this new unit. And in this unit of instruction, what are the essential standards that we want to teach? Because we don't want to start not knowing what those core standards are. And once we know what those essential standards are, then we want to develop a common assessment together right now in order for us to know how we can assess those essential standards. And so that part takes time. The other part that takes time too is once we've administered the common assessment, we want time to get together to say, hey, how did our students do when it comes to a common assessment? And based off this, like, what are the actions we need to take to make sure that our students are getting, that we're filling in maybe the areas that the data shows that they need. In addition, what do we as a department want to agree on in terms of like a makeup or a redo for the assessment? And let's make this common together. All of that is in, number one, I think in the nature of strong professional learning communities, but also inherently about how do we actually implement these practices in an authentic way where there's like true fidelity to student learning and to a process. All of that takes time. So I share that example with you just to sort of illustrate that. And then it also led to a conversation. He had shared that I wish that there were clear district guidelines too, and we got more detail into what exactly that meant. And that wasn't necessarily that he wanted there to be a prescriptive set of every teacher shall have the same particular set of grading practices, but he wanted clear guidelines for all teachers to engage in that process I described, right? That professional learning process of going through, developing essential standards, working on common assessments, identifying grading practices that are equitable grading practices that are a result of that data. So just knowing that that was beneficial to his department. So it's kind of a bit of a story, but I think helps to illustrate and make sense of some of that data really from the perspective of a teacher in our school district, a great teacher in our school district. Here's some of the teacher feedback. Again, similar to the prior presentation, I tried to clump them together in terms of themes. And so one of the themes was that there's an acknowledgement of the variation amongst practices. And so, one teacher reported, there needs to be more consistency across teachers so students aren't confused. In terms of feedback on motivation, I think there was someone who stated that students seem more motivated, but then also at the next comment, it's that maybe students actually feel a little maybe less motivated because they don't have the same urgency to turn things in on time. And then in terms of improving and implementing, one teacher stated we need more opportunities to collaborate within departments. I did check, and that was a secondary teacher. And then another teacher noted we need more training with specific examples, and that would be more helpful. I checked, and that was an elementary teacher. So we also were grateful to have the feedback from our Student District Advisory Council. I tried to select some quotes and feedback from them just to provide, I would say, like a reflective view of some of their feedback. And so, one particular student said that, the summative assessments, are the best, but also recognize too that maybe one size fits all, isn't necessarily always a great thing. This student whose quote is in the middle kind of really echoed a lot of what we have actually started to see, which is that the student preferred standards-based grading for certain types of classes, language classes, and what the student described as more traditional grading for math, science, and history. Again, just noting that different content areas, there's a better fit for various practices. And then the third student just noted that, I may have the same type of class in which there are different standards and different grading methods, causing students to have different grades with different teachers, but still taking that same class. So kind of taking some of that feedback and some of our planned steps, at the elementary level, we want to continue that great work that's happening for third grade in our standards-based committee and report card. We're working on finalizing at the elementary level that writing handbook, which again emphasizes standards-based rubrics for writing for the elementary levels. For grades 4 and 5, we're working on making some adjustments for the ELA and math assessments to better reflect more of the standards-based assessments that we developed in third grade. Also not noted here, but I would say based off of the feedback we received, as we work with our grade level committees each year, in this case their curriculum committees, grades 4 and 5, we will plan on providing more additional information in the form of training and examples and some specifics to our grades 4 and 5 teachers, just recognizing that they're sort of newer on this journey. At the secondary level, we'd like to, as we sort of start to get into this spring, we'd really like to have our school site departments work hard to develop clearly written, consistent, common grading practices. So to be clear, that means Thousand Oaks English Language Arts Department, all the teachers there having the same clearly written grading practices written in their course syllabi. That means at Colina Middle School, their math department having the same. And so whether you're changing, maybe you end up changing teachers for whatever reason during the course of the year, those practices are consistent. And maybe more importantly, as you move year to year, in middle school or high school, you're gonna have a familiarity with common and consistent grading practices within those specific department areas. And again, I think that really reflects, a lot of the feedback that we gathered through the survey as well as through the student comments. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and to have some discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Trustee Kearns, you were quick.
Oh, yes, yes. I was also quick in responding to that survey that you sent out, and I'm really glad to hear that I was actually quoted in this slideshow. Surprised you didn't see. I like tests, okay? Listen, and maybe I was brief envisioning this particular moment right now where I can then explain my comment, but I was the one sentence, I like summative assessments, but they are very one size fits all, and I understand not everyone's like that. But I would like to just offer a generally positive comment about grading for equity. I feel like it has had a really good impact. I think my first experience with grading with equity, as far as a whole class, was AP Seminar. And in that, it was it made it really easy to focus on just learning how to write and learning how to write in this completely new way in AP Seminar. That was quite overwhelming as a sophomore. But because kind of the edge was taken off by the grading for equity practices, I think it made all the difference in making sure that the only deadlines that really mattered were the College Board deadlines. We were able to actually develop our own workflow, a workflow that I have kept with me throughout up until senior year and likely will use in college. And that was all possible by the fact that I wasn't being told what to do and when to do it. I was being told here's how you do it, and figure out your own method and your own way of doing it, with our guidance and support, obviously. And they would always provide digital note cards and outline templates and things for us to fall back on. But as far as requiring this and requiring that, it was really centered around not only that concept of equity, but that concept of mastery and making sure that you actually are learning the content as opposed to just doing checking off a box for a grade, which I think is really important and has definitely served me well in that particular instance. Also in AP Psychology this year, it's I think 50% is the bottom for grades. If you don't turn something in, you get 50%, which to me makes more sense if you just look at based on how the ABCDEF or ABCDF, excuse me, no E, grading system works, because it bottoms out at 50%, 60%, I think, 50%. So that makes sense. I think all of it is quite logical. I do, of course, support teachers' rights to make their class academically rigorous and maintain that. So I think it's a delicate balance, but I have had nothing but positive experiences with grading for equity and or mastery. So I humbly offer that.
Thank you, Trustee Kearns. Other comments? Trustee Gill.
So I'm glad you outlined the history, and thank you for this really thorough presentation. Our first principle from the very beginning has been that this effort needed to be teacher-led, not board-led. But we're very supportive of the work that has taken place and appreciative of it. My question is about teachers coming to some common understanding at the department level, but can we help them not always be starting from scratch? And so my question is about the work that's taken place with PLC training and IB training. If out of some of that comes practices that our teachers really embrace, really feel solidly about, do we then have the capacity, or can we create the capacity to share those across the district in places, teachers who didn't directly participate, so that they're not all in their limited time having to start from scratch at each department level.
I think that's a very valid comment, and I do know when we did start talking about this initially, that is why we have brought in teachers in prior board meetings so that they can demonstrate how they are implementing this. I want to just iterate once again that this grading for mastery has been a board priority for the past, I don't know how many years. So this is something we take seriously. And I do have to say, reading through the results, I wasn't quite sure what the through line was, but I found your presentation of it and your anecdotal weaving together of some stories was much more helpful. So thank you, Mr. Liu, for that. Dr. McLaughlin?
Just one of the things that I'd point out, we hired one high school teacher this last year, one. Ultimately, we're going to have consistency based on the fact that we're not seeing a lot of turnover. And so I think that, I'm not going to say it's a benefit because there's consequences to only hiring one high school teacher based on enrollment, but that is, was eye-opening, I think, to all of us at the beginning of the year when we had our new teacher orientation, that there's just one high school teacher at Newbury Park that was hired. So that consistency is built in based on just where we sit right now as a district. Part of it, I'll say.
Other comments or questions on this?
I was just to tag on to what President Sylvester said, I also appreciated the you going back and talking to that teacher and sharing that story with us. And I can see that being the start of many really interesting discussions that you could keep doing with teachers. So thank you for that.
And we do have more schools involved in going to PLC trainings over in CME, and what we've heard from our secondary schools over the course of really the increase we saw. Was it really last year and this year, or was it mainly this year? I'm looking at Mr. Lufer.
I would say for the last 5 years, we've had our middle schools, pretty much all of our middle schools, with the exception of one and a half, go through the 3 years of PLC training, if not more. And then at the high school, we have 2 of our comprehensive high schools that are in the second year of that CAPS PLC training. So the trainings themselves, as well as the important work that we're doing in our IB continuum, we're always trying to find ways to have school sites share out those practices together, and whether those be in articulation meetings or amongst principals. But really, when we have our teachers together, articulation at the secondary level really is kind of that space for that. Another good example is, it's a little different, but our building thinking classrooms work, which is to be presented. That also is I'm thinking just another great example of us really trying to connect the dots and getting our teachers connected in together.
I would say we don't talk enough about our articulation meetings. Someone who was outside this district at one point in time and is now here, I was surprised to know that we offered or had articulation meetings. Not every district has articulation meetings. Obviously, they've been structured and in place in this district for a long time. It is a benefit, the feedback that our administrators who run those meetings get sometimes. Ultimately, it's a hammering out of issues amongst our different school sites when we're trying to function as a unified district, and then ultimately the planning and collaboration that goes into how we move forward as a district at times, especially when we're talking about grading practices. So we don't talk enough about our articulation meetings, and I do want to praise the fact that we do have them and that they are consistent. And while they happen 3 or 4 times a year, it is the ability to get teachers together in a room and hammer out some stuff. And obviously at times have administrators hear some frustrations. Obviously there's times for congratulations back to our teachers, but it is a good structure to have in a district, and I think not every district has that, I know for a fact, and we should be thankful that we have it here.
And I also do want to point out and appreciate the fact that we're not just looking one way of the approach would be, what percent of teachers are using these grading practices? I mean, that's important to know, but what I appreciate is the student impact piece, because at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this. So keeping abreast of that and understanding where we're seeing some change, I think is really important. So I'm very glad that that was also included, because that is at the end of the day why we're doing all this. All right, anybody else? All right, seeing nothing, nobody else. We are going on to item 5C, which is a discussion of Board Bylaw 9320, meetings and notices. Dr. McLaughlin.
This is a new board policy. We've always had 9320 as a policy, but this is a point one to that policy for remote meetings. And so basically there's been some education law that's come out that we needed to create this policy in case we need to ever run into remote board meetings and how that functions and works. So that's where we're at. Oh, did I? We're on
9320. We're on C.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was on D. Okay, sorry. Well, okay, so it's not a new one. This is an old one that we've had since dating back to 2008. Obviously, it's just an update from Gamut. Yeah, straight Gamut updates and the new policy on D, which I've already explained.
So 9320, existing policy with Gamut updates. 9320.1 is under emergency circumstances or circumstances where we would meet remotely.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we never have to look at that policy. Any questions or comments on either of those two policies? Do you have anything, Dr. McLaughlin?
No, I don't.
Oh. Okay. Then we've covered C and we've covered D, so we're on E, board committee reports. All right, are there any board committee reports from, I just want to say the new software is a little cumbersome, so we're blaming the software, not us. Okay, turning to committee reports. Anybody have a committee report? Or is it just me?
Does someone want to cover tech committee? No, it's okay. You guys can cover
Have
that
you
one.
met since the last board meeting? Okay, so somebody.
Well, I was going to do adult education.
Okay, so first I heard there was a tech committee meeting. Then we could talk about adult education. I have a coalition of youth and family.
There was a tech committee meeting, and Dr. Suter has done brilliant work to begin to lay out an evaluation framework for software. And we have started a very productive discussion about it, and there's more work to be done, which will commence tomorrow.
Excellent.
I'm not on the committee, but I do want to jump in and just note that we have increased the frequency of the tech committee meetings so that our community is aware of that, and the length of the meetings. So those have been two adjustments made going into the next few meetings, is frequency and length.
Trustee Kearns.
As a newcomer to the tech committee, I was very impressed by the depth of discussions there, and I look forward and anxiously await the meeting tomorrow.
All right, Trustee Powell.
Okay, I'll do Conejo Valley Adult Education. It was the first advisory council meeting that has ever been held on March 24th, and it was really meant as an intro meeting. I'll try to just kind of give you a quick summary, but really we got an overview of all the programming with, because there's a mix of people on the advisory committee, including a couple of like outside folks from the community, from the trades business community. So we got a really, really rich overview of that. One of the really interesting pieces for me around this was something we heard from Mr. Sanders a couple of years ago, was just that the funding for adult ed is education programming is just a little bit nutty. And so right now, the funding amounts across the different adult ed schools are actually really inequitable. And so that's something that I think somehow will need more attention at some point, but I think it's a really complex thing to fix. It's going to take a lot of strategy and really working within the consortium to see if that can change. And that would be lovely if we can figure that out. I know there's a lot in the works for planning, growing programs. CVAE has been approved to add electrical, HVAC, and plumbing, and electrical is going to be the one they start with on that, and I look forward to what comes next.
All right. So now I will talk about the Coalition Youth and Family meeting. I'll make this brief. We met yesterday, so just very quickly, the Coalition of Youth and Family is a joint committee with a representative from here, CRPD and the TO City Council. So we did have a public comment, and I thought this is something community might be interested in. Sarah Hawkins from the Conejo Free Clinic came and spoke. This is an organization that provides free medical, dental, and legal services to those who need. And she let us know that on April 25th, they're holding a free dental screening, and this is in conjunction with Adelante. So it will take place at the Adelante community event. So again, that's Saturday, April 25th. And she also let us know that the clinic provides free vaccinations to students. So I thought that was important to highlight. The meeting really had 3 different community organizations, kind of all focused similarly, come and speak about the services that they offer. We heard from Friends of Field Workers, 805 UndocuFund, and House Farm Workers. And each one of them presented, I can only say, the multitude of services and programs that they offer throughout our county. And it really was inspiring to hear just the breadth as well as the depth of these services, the amount of money they're able to raise, the number of volunteers that pitch in and help. And I'd say we're very fortunate here in this community to have these groups serving us. We had a brief debrief on the March 10th meet and greet. The feedback has been fairly positive from both the participants as well as the agencies that were represented during this event. And Amber Bowman, who serves as the liaison on this committee, did say she was going to get some additional feedback from our counselors to help determine what the best date and timing would be to hold this in hold it in the future. So that was it for youth and family. Any other committee reports? I know we had a week of spring break in there. All right, so now we're on to comments from the Board of Education, starting with Trustee Kearns.
Hey everyone. I've got a good comment today, so buckle up. First and foremost, we're going to start with some really exciting news. If you stared a little bit too long at my lapel today, glanced at the back of my computer, or saw my little press tour on Instagram that I did, you may know that I've finally made a decision as to where I'm spending my next 4 years. So, Ms. Judd, drum roll, please. I will be attending Boston College. I'm very excited. Thank you. I'm choosing BC because of their Jesuit roots in social justice that connects a lot with me, not only from an academic excellence perspective, but with the work that I want to dedicate the rest of my life to, and a lot of what I've done already at the Public Defender's Office, here on the board. Had the chance to visit a few days ago and was blown away by just how incredible everyone there was. And they've also made it very financially accessible for me, which always helps. So, moving on from that, we had our SDAC Civic Leadership Panel last month. Our first ever was a huge success. Thank you to every single board member who came. Let me actually list everyone who was in attendance. So SDAC representatives had the opportunity to hear from panelists Ashley Orozco from the CRPD Board of Directors, Michelle Ascension from Ventura, who is the Ventura County Clerk Recorder, Sita Gutierrez, Thousand Oaks City Council, Bob Engler, and David Newman, also from the Thousand Oaks City Council, Dr. Lisa Evans-Powell, Karen Sylvester, Lauren Gill, Cindy Goldberg, and Bill Gorbach, all from our very own Board of Education. So thank you all for that. It was a really incredible event. Students and community leaders were engaged throughout. A student had an opportunity to ask a question. McKenna and I led the discussion for the most part, where students learned what opportunities exist to get involved locally, how our local leaders that make all the decisions for this school, not only school district, but the larger community of Thousand Oaks and Conejo Valley, where do they come from? How are they elected? Why did they choose to pursue those sorts of positions, and what they feel like their duty is to the community? And all of those questions were answered amply by our 9 panelists. So thank you all so much to all of you in this room, out there in the universe who probably are not listening, who came. College apps are finally over. I'm very excited to hear about everyone's decision. I've been hearing on the down low about a lot of people that maybe are committing here, maybe are committing there, but haven't released it yet. So my message to everyone, please go put it on the Instagram story, on your school's respective Instagram for the TOHS Commitments 26. It's the best thing ever, and everyone gets to repost it. And it's kind of awkward if you just make a story and you're just I'm going here, but then it's not on the actual Instagram account, and it gets a little hairy. So put it on the actual Instagram account. Don't be oh, I'm going to wait for it to get filled up. It's never going to get filled up if you don't actually do it. So that's just my gripe. But yeah, so really excited to hear where all my peers are going. I know we're all going to be very successful after having this exceptional educational experience for all of us. Lastly, something I did want to mention, I went to TOHS's school musical, 9 to 5, and I felt like this should make my board comment because it was just really incredible. I was shocked at how hilarious it was. And that's not shocked from the perspective of oh, it's a high school theater. It's shocked from the perspective of how well the play performed in a high school environment, and how I feel it commented so well on these really important societal issues like sexual misconduct in the workplace and all these things that are really relevant in our society, unfortunately so. And it just did it excellently and added a comedy tinge to it, which obviously I'm quite a big fan of. And I was really did not want to get up out of my seat. It was so entertaining for all 3 hours, and I just really cannot say enough good things about this musical, to the point where I felt elevating it to everyone's attention here. So with all of that out of the way, I think I'm going to wrap it up unless I'm forgetting anything, which I feel like I'm not. So good night, everyone.
Thank you, Trustee Kearns, and congratulations on your decision. That's awesome. Trustee Gill.
Thank you. Good evening. We as a board have a very, very strong unified commitment to arts and music education for every student. And because we are a reflection of the community that we come from, we are so fortunate, and I feel fortunate that our entire community supports that commitment to arts and music education for every student. And I'm saying that because it's all District Music Festival time again. And it kicked off last night. And if you didn't get to sit next to me last night, like Mr. Gorbach did, look forward to I cry at every single performance. But it's happy tears. It is such a significant thing that our community does, and you can see the impact right before your eyes. It's just magnificent. And then the other thing that I'll mention is reaching back before spring break. Our unified sports program is just so incredible, and huge kudos to the folks who worked out an arrangement to have our post-secondary program now in partnership with CLU, and I got to go over to the Gilbert Sports Arena and see students that I have seen over the past many years participating in our unified sports and performing on our stages, now in a big arena and competing and participating with their college counterparts. And it was just awesome. I loved every minute of it. So thank you. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Trustee Gill. Trustee Goldberg.
I too enjoyed 9 to 5. It was hilarious. we all do a lot of things, and spring break was just, so I'm just gonna say, hold on to your hats, because it is all district music festival season, and everything else that happens between now and the end of the school year. I have two PSAs. Number one, there is a student internship opportunity in the tech services department here, and the deadline to apply is April 19th. I highly recommend to any student that, or any parent. Yes, it is this Sunday. Today's the 15th, so the 19th is very soon. But it's totally worth it. And I appreciate the fact that we're offering our students opportunities within our district.
And that's paid, right? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's what I thought. I think that's a big thing for a lot of people.
It's a paid internship. So, like, if you're looking for something to do that aligns with your interests, we're a great place. And I hear we're really great to work for. So, awesome. And then Measure I is looking for parents, business leaders, a representative of a parent community, the business community. You have to be a member of a business group such as the Chamber, or a senior citizen group representative for Measure I committee. But that deadline is not until April 30th. So parents and business leaders, you have longer to do that. But that's it for me, because, yeah.
Thank you. Two important announcements, PSAs. Trustee Powell.
Good evening. Happy to be here. Congratulations to all of the students we honored tonight. Thank you to Jess Bernacki for her great report from LGBTQ+ Advisory Council. Thank you, student reporters and public commenters. I'll keep it short. Just a couple things that I've also been excited about seeing was the 9 to 5 show as well. I actually think it might have been my favorite CVUSD high school drama production I've ever seen. I almost think when I was surprised. I didn't expect it when I went in to watch that show, and it was so good. And so fun. And and they actually had to really tone it down too. It's a very adult production, and they really had to work to make sure it was appropriate for high school students to perform, and they did a great job. And the music festival kickoff last night was just exquisite. And I just want to give a shout out to the students who were involved and all the teachers in the CTE Student Showcase. It was the second annual, held at CLU. It's just this big room that they get to use there, filled with all these tables and presentations, and just students showing their work, doing their thing, demonstrating fun, wonderful, creative pathways and other things related to potential careers. So just such a great event, and so excited for them that they've pulled off 2 years in a row. Just a really great opportunity to see what those CTE pathways look like. So, and finally, just a big congratulations to Trustee Kearns. It's awesome. Can't wait to hear all about it once you're over there. Good night, everybody.
Trustee Gorbach.
Good evening. First of all, congratulations, Trustee Kearns. I want to talk about, for a second, the unified basketball game at TOHS before break, and the national recognition that TOHS got from ESPN. And I think that represents our whole district. I mean, all of our schools do a great job with unified games, and the fact that we're recognized, one recognizes them all. So I just want to congratulate them. That was a fantastic. The gym was crowded. The kids were yelling. It was just amazing. It was a wonderful experience. I want to talk for a second about something that's not school related, but was student related, and that's the City Council Youth Summit Leadership program. I had 3 tables full of kids. It was amazing, the response that they had. Most of them were from our district. There were a couple that weren't, but we got along anyway. And but the responses, the mature way they addressed issues that affect them and affect the community was just wonderful, and showed leadership, again, another opportunity for leadership. We have SDAC, we have ASBs, but this was another opportunity. It was fantastic. Another comment or affirmation of the CTE Student Showcase. Want to talk to parents. I know everyone out there, all our parents are watching out there. I know that we have a full listing. I want to tell parents, even if your student does not have a project in the CTE Showcase next year, bring your younger students to see what the potential is. Go up there and see. I mean, younger brothers and sisters were there, and their eyes were popping out of their heads. Wow, I want to do that. I want to do that. And it was just amazing, and I think it's a great opportunity for parents to show their students the potential of what they can get in high school. I'll make it unanimous. I think all six of us have said something about it, but TO's 9 to 5 was just fantastic. Great play. And all of our plays, unfortunately I didn't get to see some of them, but all of our plays, all of our drama and performing arts is fantastic. Also want to call attention to kind of a performing arts. Aspen's Women in History program, they had 10 young ladies that reenacted 5 women in history, and the way they acted them out was fantastic. Congrats to Allison Friedman for the coaching and teaching. On the same day, I rushed from that, and I went to principal for half a day. I think our district giving our Chamber of Commerce a chance to see what it's really like. You know, I walk around that luncheon, and I see people with their eyes open. Wow, I didn't know principals had to deal with that. Well, it's a different learning experience, and they get to see the experience of what our principals go through. Public service announcement. I went to a DAC meeting yesterday, and Dr. Chamberlain, help me out here in case I mess it up. We talk about the partnership between parents and our school district. And part of the partnership, please take time to fill out your insurance forms. That really adds to the partnership. It also financially helps us, but I'm not doing it just for the money, but it helps your kids get service and helps us pay for our services. So please fill out your financial report or insurance report. And finally, congratulations to, and I hope I don't mess up the name, Sarah Mergian? Yeah. Sarah Mergian, who was the April Teacher of the Month from Sycamore Canyon. I love those because we honor one, but we really see the enthusiasm of everybody. I mean, the whole group always applauds their one nominee, but they celebrate together, and it's a team thing. So I just want to do that, and also add to what everyone else said, the All-District Music Festival. Last night was the beginning. It was fantastic. There was one tonight, I know. Somehow I couldn't make it. But attend the All-District Music Festival if you want to see your kids' performing arts for the next 9 shows that we have. And glad everyone's back safe from break. Thank you. Good night.
The joys of going last is I can just check things off the list. I would like to say I'm the outlier. I got to see, as I mentioned earlier, the Westlake High School show, which was Legally Blonde. And that was also a spectacular production with so many moving parts and so many members of the cast and crew. And having been the theater parent for many years, I know how hard these kids work, and I know how much time and effort it takes from the staff, from the teachers, from everybody, and they really did a phenomenal job. So whenever there's an opportunity to go see one of the performances at our high schools, I suggest you all take it. I do want to thank Trustee Kearns as well as all of SDAC and Nicole Judd for organizing the civic engagement panel that Trustee Kearns talked about. I thought it was actually a really impactful event, and not only just hearing from my fellow trustees, but hearing from city council members, Parks and Rec, just about civic engagement and what it takes to run and the like. I thought it was actually really an excellent event, and I do hope that it continues in future years. I'd also like to thank Nicole Judd, because I too participated in the Thousand Oaks Youth Commission summit, and she sat at my table with me, and she is the expert in all things middle and high school. So as they were talking about AI and cell phones, she had on-the-ground experience. So thank you. Make us all look smarter and better. The CTE showcase was incredible, as was mentioned. The Principal for a Day, I think, is a great opportunity for community members. That's been discussed. The unified basketball game at TO High School, which had national recognition, has been discussed. So with all of that, I hope everyone had a wonderful spring break. We are in that final sprint to the end of the year. So, Dr. McLaughlin.
Yeah, just want to welcome everybody back from their spring break time and know that the next 8 weeks is going to be a blur. So just know it's coming.
All right, with that, we are now on section 6, adjournment, and item 6A, future board topics. So would any board members like to add to our list, which is being whittled down as we get through the year, any topics for future board discussion? So seeing none, my only comment, and this is, I don't know how to react to it. We had a lot of comments about technology over the past, I don't know how many board meetings. We've heard that the number of technology committee meetings is increasing in frequency and time. So I know a lot of time and effort is being devoted to that. We've also discussed how important it is to do this in a very thoughtful, transparent way. And I guess part of what I'm hoping we can maybe start thinking about is some kind of, I don't want to use the word deadline, but some kind of time frame where maybe the board can see some of that work, if that makes sense. Because I know how important it is, and I know we are careening rapidly toward the end of the year. So it's already on the list, and I guess I'm just asking for some thought about, you know, is there an end goal in this? So it's not really adding to the list. I'm not asking for a date right now, unless someone wants to give one, because I do understand there's a lot of moving parts. I understand there's a robust committee in place. I just would like to have some sort of an idea at some point, could be in a board report, as to what we think the time frame would be to see something.
So the scope has expanded from where we began. Because of the community discussion that we're a part of, that is part of a much larger discussion. So I think we all recognize that we would love to have a package of policies that the board could review and you know, possibly even adopt in time for the beginning of the next school year. But I don't know that we're going to be able to do that. But I think you're not asking for that. I think you're asking, can the board see some evidence of the work that's taken place? And I think we can work toward that as a goal. But I can't say for sure that we're going to make the deadline.
Yeah, again, I'm not asking for a date right now, because I do recognize, which is why I didn't put myself on that committee, if you noticed. It's Trustees Gill and Powell. It's a lot of hard work. I do recognize that. So just some thought around that, I guess, is what I'm asking for.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
Any other additions to this? All right, seeing none, the meeting is adjourned at 9:17 p.m. Good night.